asylum seekers all the way until 2030.
Good.
After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Sir Ian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, you know, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And
yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side, this is Talk.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. Wait. Sorry, Paul Cox just choked. Are you okay, son?
I'm okay, thanks, man.
Don't
know what happened there.
I was supposed to be doing a sort of nice little introduction. Good morning, happy Sunday. Thank you for joining me. Coming up, we've got 3 hours.
I always forget because we talk like we're never on air.
I know.
And you just go from our conversation to good morning.
We live on a cliff edge, don't we? We're like this, and I've got the countdown. I know the sort of, you know, the timings are sort of ingrained in my head. So I'm like, good morning, and you're just not ready for it.
I'm not. But I am, but just...
You are really?
Not as they expect me to be.
No, well, that's why we love you. We don't like things being too...
professional.
Exactly. Who does? Who does indeed? Anyway, if you want to join the conversation today, let me do the housekeeping, get that out of the way. The number to call is 03444 99 1000. It is your normal network rate, so you're not really paying any money to share in some communal catharsis. 87222 is the number to send a text message. Write the word talk before you text, and if you want to send a WhatsApp or indeed leave me a cheeky little voice note, a ditty, a jingle, a rap on WhatsApp, 03444 99 1000 is also the number for that. Let's get stuck in, because we've got a brilliant first guest. We're joined now by the education spokesman for Reform UK, of course, former Conservative Minister Suella Braverman. How are you doing, Suella? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Alex. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
Let us, first of all, kick off with this pretty strident policy announcement from Reform UK about blocking foreign-born citizens or foreign-born people who are in this country from access to council housing. Tell us more about the policy and what's motivated you to introduce this.
Well, it's an absolutely essential policy if we're going to get a grip on restoring fairness to our border crisis. There are thousands of asylum seekers, illegal migrants who are being accommodated at the behest of the British taxpayer in towns and cities around the country. In my own constituency last year, actually, I led a campaign against the Home Office and the Labour-run, Lib Dem-run local council that wanted to accommodate migrants in accommodation in the town centre. This is costing the British taxpayer billions of pounds. And all the while we have veterans who are homeless. We have British families who are homeless, and that cannot be right. And so we are saying enough is enough, and we're going to take a zero-tolerance approach to this abuse of the system.
Is there a risk that this would potentially generate homelessness? I've seen in the essay written by Nigel Farage on his brand new Substack that the plan is to move people who, foreign nationals, are given a 3-month grace period, in which time, if they've not sorted out their own living affairs, they will be liable for deportation. Is there not a risk, however, that people will try and evade the system, challenge it in the courts, or that people might end up homeless?
Well, that is a risk that they need to bear. And really the solution is that if they cannot support themselves in the UK, then they really shouldn't be here. And people coming to this country to freeload, frankly, off the British taxpayer and British generosity has to come to an end. We're spending about £6 million a day to house tens of thousands of asylum seekers. That's money that should be going to our defences or to our schools or to our NHS. And at the moment, too many foreign nationals are coming to the country. They know Britain is a soft touch, and they're getting welfare, free housing, other sort of state support, and it just cannot go on.
There'll be people watching this who have said, well, this is all very good and well, but we had felt reform had gone a little bit soft, which is why we're now attracted instead to votes for Restore Britain. Is this simply coming up with policy in order to defend your flank against a threat in Makerfield from Rupert Lowe?
No, I think this is just common sense. Listen, Nigel Farage has been the original disruptor and challenger for 20 years, best part of 20 years. He's been taking on the establishment, telling the truth for the British people, whether it was on the breaking point and out of control migration levels coming from the EU into the United Kingdom, whether it's about two-tier policing, and now whether it's about saying this is our actual plan of action, that if we're in government, we're going to deliver to bring an end to this abuse of the system.
Strident's front page of the Daily Mail today saying that Restore Britain activists were at a white supremacy summit. I've seen various things that people who purport to follow Restore Britain say online, on X, particularly against me. They don't exactly give me an easy time. But what do you make of this emergent party on the right wing? You've been extremely strident today. I watched you giving an interview to Sky. You've called out the two-tier nature of justice, the anti-white stance of a lot of our public services. But is there a point at which rhetoric gets a little bit too strong?
Listen, I think the British people are fed up with the mealy-mouthed, double-speak, meaningless language that a lot of the mainstream politicians talk in. I mean, that was one of my major frustrations with the Conservative Party and one of the reasons I left it. On the one hand, they would say we're going to secure our borders and stop the boats. But at the same time, they lacked any backbone to actually tell the truth and do what was necessary, i.e. leave the ECHR, because they were scared. We see the same pattern playing out with the Labour government. The rhetoric is, you know, they try and sound tough, but in reality, that's concealing a very weak party. I think that Reform is the only party that has credibility, has a plan, has a team, but is really aware of the enormity of the problems facing this country and willing to expose them and tell the truth about them. There's no other party in British politics that commands such a level of support. We're the largest party in British politics by membership, and which is winning elections and that can beat Labour.
Why do you think it is then that there have been a significant wedge of support that once upon a time would have backed Reform UK that has been tempted over to Restore Britain?
Listen, I understand why some people are thinking about Restore. They want radical change. And what I would say to those people is I want radical change. That's why I left the Conservative Party. It's an irrelevant, weak party and betrayed the British people. I'm impatient. I'm desperate to save our country, to restore fairness, to secure our borders, to bring an end to this invasion. I want to stop reading stories in the paper of dangerous foreign men raping British women or trying to behead innocent British men, or white people being treated unfairly by the police. I want an end to that, and I want it quickly. And the reality, the political reality, is that Reform UK is the only viable vehicle to bring an end to this socialist decay and the path that we're currently on, which is one that's leading us into a third world country, one with open borders, with a police force that's become a laughingstock and actually is killing people, arguably, in terms of policies that are being rolled out, and a defence system and an armed forces which is depleted. I want a country which has some national self-confidence. And I think, those people who are thinking about voting Restore, I would ask them to vote Reform. We're the only vehicle that can stop Labour from further destroying our country and get our country back.
Let's talk now, finally, about this astonishing story that's appeared in the Daily Telegraph today, the Sunday Telegraph, which is suggesting that more than 150,000 claimants of sickness benefits have no recorded medical conditions at all. Why is this happening? What has gone so wrong, fundamentally wrong in our system, that people are getting handouts that, frankly, cannot provide any evidence that they require them? And what would you do to change that?
Well, there's been a collapse of rigour in our welfare system. And the honest truth is that there are far too many people claiming welfare who don't deserve it. Now, in many cases, there are people who are in genuine need, and it's right that we have a safety net. But in too many cases now, people are exploiting the system. Mild anxiety should not be a basis for receiving taxpayer-funded welfare. Low-level issues should not be a reason to be in receipt of welfare. And the problem has got out of control, and our welfare bill has ballooned, and we just can't keep carrying on like that. That's why Reform has announced that we would inject more rigour to the system, that we would reduce the ability of people to claim some of these kind of spurious welfare claims. We would stop foreign nationals being able to claim welfare. That would save billions of pounds. It makes sense. It's right. It's just not fair that we've got a cohort of our population who can work but are choosing not to because they can claim welfare, and we've got another cohort of our population who are exhausted, who are working every hour that God sends, who are, trying their best to pay their mortgage, their rent, put food on the table, and are being crippled by taxation, which is going towards funding these people who are exploiting the system.
Now, finally, I want to revert our attention back to Restore Britain and what might be happening in the very crucial Makerfield by-election. Only got a few days to go before people go to the ballot boxes in that constituency. We've been given some footage of the sort of activity that Restore Britain is doing around the Reform UK headquarters. I just want to play this clip and get your reaction to it.
Called out from afar.
No, bye, thank you.
Round them up, shake them out, let the blaze flow. And free illegal, every scrounger, every invader scum. For the British, the rest we're done.
Yeah, so, I mean, what we hear there is, it seems to be Restore Britain campaigners, my understanding is they are parked outside the Reform UK campaign offices in Makerfield. We've had to bleep out certain words there. But, Suella, I mean, what do you make of their campaign? Do you think they're being overly focused on attacking Reform?
What I'd say about Makerfield is I think that this is probably the most consequential by-election in my lifetime, your lifetime, Alex, because the voters of Makerfield have a really important choice before them. If they choose Andy Burnham, they are almost certainly choosing the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That's unlike any other by-election. Who is Andy Burnham? Well, he wants to open our borders even more. If you think the number of illegal migrants in the UK is high now, wait till Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister. He wants to give more benefits to refugees. He wants to take us back into the European Union, and he thinks a man can be a woman. He would destroy what precious little is left of the UK, and I really fear Andy Burnham becoming Prime Minister. And anyone on the right who wants to stop Burnham becoming Prime Minister needs to get serious and realise that Reform UK is the only vehicle, the only party that can stop Burnham. We won the local elections in the area just last month, convincingly. There's a lot of support for Reform UK. And there's not time for people to be nostalgic or sentimental about the Conservative Party, which is irrelevant. That's a vote for Burnham. And equally, if you're going to vote for Restore, you're basically voting for Andy Burnham to be Prime Minister and further destroy this country. And I'd ask everybody on the right in Makerfield to think really carefully about their vote on Thursday and to really think about the implications of their decision. Only Reform UK can stop Burnham becoming Prime Minister, can stop him opening our borders even further and destroying this country.
Suella, thank you ever so much for giving up part of your morning to join us today. First of all, let's do our housekeeping, the off-commery. We've got to read you all of the candidates in the Makerfield by-election, so we will get that out of the way, shall we? We've got Jake Austin for the Liberal Democrats, Count Binface for the Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham running for the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer is an independent, Ed Gemmell for the Climate Party, Paul Gold, who is also an independent, Alan Howling Lord Hope, the official monster-raving Looney Party, Robert Kenyon for Reform UK, Robert Pownell for Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd for Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield for the Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley for the Conservative Party. Where do we begin with all of this then? I mean, let's begin at the end, shall we? Let's begin first of all with that video, which I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, I don't like it when politics just looks puerile and bullying, and listening to what they're saying in that. There's a big difference between being extremely hardline in politics, talking the talk, coming up with actual, actionable, tough policies, and using language like invader scum and expletives, which turns up, to me, it just turns up the dial, the tension so high. We're in a very precarious situation. We've seen the riots going on in Belfast, and I'm not being some woke, oh no, we can't. But there's a big difference between saying we're not going to give foreigners welfare, we're not going to allow them to have social housing, we're going to try and deport anyone who's here illegally, people who cannot pay their own way, etc. There's a big difference between coming up with radical policies, and I think, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable with, I'm comfortable personally with this front page. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that we actually have white supremacists. There's a big difference between being really tough on policy and courting racial hatred. And I know that makes me now sound like a wokatron, but, you know, I was out yesterday with a really good friend of mine who is Nigerian of descent. And the idea that my own stepsister is mixed race, the idea that people want to get into and infest our politics and our society with just despicable behaviour, unchristian values, let's say.
Yeah, first thing first, great to see Suella there. Suella's actually my constituency MP.
Is she?
Yeah, and the work she talked about doing in Waterlooville, well, she didn't mention Waterlooville, but it was in Waterlooville last year, was incredibly welcomed by probably the highest possible percentage of local residents. So thank you to Suella for that. With regards to what's going on with Restore, Restore is a reaction to reform, in the sense that there are people out there who A, have an issue with Nigel Farage, and B, don't believe reform are going far enough. Because what we're seeing is nothing being... What they believe or perceive to be seeing is absolutely nothing being done whatsoever. And one of the reasons nothing's being done is because nobody's in power from the right. Absolutely nobody. And nobody has been. So the idea that you are rebelling against reform before they've had a chance to do anything, to me, is an interesting one, because you can criticise reform for policy, but you can't criticise reform for not doing anything. What's happening, though, is because of that, and because a lot of the hype is immediately being believed, because we're in a... Let's be honest here, we're in an incredibly dangerous situation with our country.
Yeah.
Every week something happens.
Yeah.
I mean, just this week alone, Burnley... I don't know if you've seen that footage.
The wee girl stabbed in the neck.
Exactly, 17-year-old, OK? And then there was Belfast, and the previous week was Henry Novak. And, you know, Henry Novak now, I say it's like it's an old story. Oh, do you remember Henry Novak? That story weeks and months ago. Well, no, it wasn't. It was just 10 days ago, actually. But it's been superseded by. So the fact that nothing's getting done by this Labour Party is actually making people very anxious.
Exactly.
So they look towards reform, and they see reform doing nothing because they can't, and because they're just taking whatever rhetoric Nigel says on absolute face value, which is where I sit, actually, I sit right with the reform camp. I never nail my colours to the mast so that I can talk openly about it all. But if you're out there thinking Nigel Farage is going to do absolutely nothing, then you are bonkers, because you have no idea what he is or isn't going to do. And to knee-jerk even further to the right to me, as I've said on a number of platforms, is...
But my concern with this, my big concern, and I think there are people out there who want this to happen, my concern is some of the extreme language. And I mean, look, I've had it in the neck as a person in the public eye for years, especially from that follow back pro-EU, or what they call, do you know, the FBP law? I had horrible things said to me, people pulling my hair on College Green when I was an MEP, spitting on me. I've never received abuse like I get from this Restore Britain bunch. It's very unpleasant. It's extreme. And I just don't think people there who are, like you said, really desperate, they're impatient, they feel like we're at the 11th hour, and not just our country's at stake, but Western civilization. And I think they're right to feel that. I get it. But what they're being distracted by, to me, is something that's turning up the temperature so high, ramping up with this emotive language, ramping up that feeling of, and fundamentally, at this stage, politically, Restore are not going to be able to provide a democratic outcome. So if they back that, my worry is that tension, that desperation, that feeling of intensity gets so high, and then what happens is there's no release because there is no solution, because there isn't a party in power that delivers for it. And where that leaves us, you know, I don't know at what point the sort of things I'm reading online, this sort of stuff where you talk about anti-white, you know, white supremacy summits, I don't know at what point this turns into something else. And as much as I want big change in this country, I don't want bloodshed. I don't want bloodshed. I don't want violent attacks. I don't want mass civil unrest. But I think there are people out there who actually do. And that scares me. You know, be careful what you wish for. I've lived in Africa where I've seen post-election violence with my own eyes. And if people out there are thinking, well, we've reached so far now that actually, if we did this, no one listens to us at the ballot box. We've got to go out and do a thing. It's got to be, you know, big and huge and optically powerful. Be very careful, because unless you've lived through what that actually is like, you don't know what you're wishing for. Yeah, interestingly, a couple of things. You and I are likely to be the sort of people who get accused of being white supremacists online by people. Now we're woke.
And we're not. Also, I have seen a lot of the abuse attributed to you, because I happen to have been involved in a couple of the conversations that you've been abused for, and I get tagged in a lot of it. I don't comment. I never comment. I won't comment. There's no need for me to stand up for you. You don't need me to stand up for you. I'm a tough girl. Absolutely. But it is outrageous. Not all of it. Some of it's... Look, you and I welcome all opinions from across the spectrum. And look, I understand that there is... Look, I run comedy clubs, and I always equate it to that. I have no issue with another comedy club coming up in an area I operate in. The biggest problem I have an issue with is when a comedy club comes up and it's rubbish. So that what happens is people go to that comedy club, think live comedy's rubbish, and never go to another one.
Right.
Okay, and what I fear with some things on the extreme right is that people that are looking towards the right of politics solutions will see some of the rhetoric that's coming from the extreme right and think, oh no, this is not for me, I'm going back to the Tories. In fact, I'm going to go back to Labour, I'm going to vote for Annie Burnham, because they just think it's absolutely mental and that no good can ever come from it, which is a huge shame. Just listen to Suella Braverman there. Listen to some... by the way, listen to some of the things that... There are some good Restore votes. I watched a podcast this week where they interviewed a Restore voter in Makerfield, and he was a very sensible chap who had some legitimate concerns. I welcome those opinions also. But if you're out there thinking, I might want to lean to the right because I've just had enough, but you're worried about some of the crazy stuff you've seen, perhaps you've just seen those guys stood outside of Reform, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. So that's my fear.
Right, we're going to take a short break. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about that. So do get in touch with the show. We are going to be back just after this.
Violence on the streets, there's no excuse for that, and if there are protests following this, I just hope that they remain non-violent. I mean, you can understand the community concerns after an attack like that.
People were saying all around the world, that's what British people now think. Have a listen to Rob from yesterday.
Morning, Jez. Well, yes, rightly, you shouldn't condone what happened. What else have people got to do? The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here, it's literally like putting a wall in a sheep field.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I say, what a lovely day for listening to Alex Phillips and that, well, comedian bloke, Paul Cox. Funny, apparently.
I love the fact now at weekends we've got like a willing team of committed individuals who make jingles and teasers for us. Keep them coming in. 03444991000 is the number for WhatsApp to leave us a voice note. I want to go back to what we were talking about actually, because we had a really good natter during the advert break, and sometimes I think that was such a good conversation I wish we'd had it on air. I lost my rag a bit then. I was actually having an Alex rant off camera because we were talking about the abuse online, and you were saying people like Bev Turner get it really hard from people on the right wing as well. And I was just saying, the one thing that sticks in my craw so much, is when you have men who will happily make memes of me looking dishevelled, making me out to be a lunatic, mentally unhinged, falling apart, you know, having illicit affairs with people, you know, being a woman of low morals and this, that and the other. And then the exact same people, we've got to protect our girls. We're here to protect women. The sexism in Islam. And I'm like, don't you dare Don't you dare use this veil that you're here for women. We're going to look after our women. We're going to look after our girls. And the minute you can't win an argument, or the minute you feel that your, political movement is being criticised, you are the most sexist, misogynistic, boorish pig. And I'm no Me Too movement woman. I don't care if someone puts their hand on my thigh. Bring it on, son. But I am not having people who in 1 minute are coming out of the most disgusting, horrible, very sexist personal abuse, then going, yeah, we don't like sexism in Islam, we've got to look after women and girls. Don't you dare use the, campaign for women's safety as your veil of morality. Don't.
So, look, what I was saying to you in the break is, having worked with yourself and Bev quite closely, I see the abuse online that both of you get from being on the right, essentially, and it's different than that's aimed at me, and it's different that's aimed at our male colleagues. Now, I'm not going to sit here and become this male feminist. I don't believe in any of that.
Yeah,
what I do believe in, however, is that your voice counts as much as mine and counts as much as anybody else's, and therefore, if we are going to progress on the right, we have to have it from both genders. We have to have it from both genders, because we have to take both genders with us in order for it to work.
No, this is the thing. The abuse that people like I'm getting online is actually from people who are on the right.
Yes.
It's not. The leftists have always been, words I can't say this time of day and with Ofcom watching. But the leftists have always been like that. But they're not as vitriolical vile as these people who are now back in that one party. And it's not just me saying that. I have been getting messages from so many women on the right, like me, who have said the same. There's a real toxicity. There's a real horrible, spiteful, vindictive, cruel, bullying, offensive, and frankly, immoral language and treatment of women coming from that. And then they pretend to be the ones fighting for women's rights. And I'm like, get out. Go. You want to be that person, be that person. I don't care. And it doesn't upset me, by the way. What upsets me is the hypocrisy. What upsets me is the hypocrisy. If you're going to be a chauvinistic, disgusting, spiteful, nasty, sexist old bore, be one. No, I don't care. I've got a thick skin. But don't you dare turn around and go, we've got to protect our women and girls. Shut up.
So it goes back to what I was saying before the break with regards to, you can have as many political parties on the right as you like, but if people act in a way that puts off potential right-wing voters, we have a massive issue collectively on the right.
Yeah.
I won't mention any of the by-elections because I don't want to put you through that again.
I've got to do the names.
I won't do it. I won't do it. But everybody has everybody's entitled to vote and do what they like. But I think for the first time, particularly in my life, we have an opportunity to consolidate on the right, the actual right, and make a change. Now, it won't come as part as one by-election. However, if you use that by-election to further your own, or to use it to vindicate yourself, or to trump somebody else over somebody else, we're still going to lose the war in voice. Suella said it perfectly. Go back and listen to that if you want, if you want to understand what I mean by that. But we have to have collectively good politics.
We've got to be grown up, because this is a crisis. This isn't a game. This isn't one-upmanship online. This isn't coming out of a stupid song with swear words and sort of strutting around like you're at a football match. This is real life. Let's do some messages, because they've been flooding in. Steve in Northamptonshire says reform helped the Tories when Boris got in and got no thanks whatsoever. Actually, interesting you say that, Steve, because, look, I've been in politics 20 years and I know stuff. And it's very interesting to see Rupert Lowe blowing smoke up Kemi's backside and that favour being returned. It's interesting, isn't it, how all of a sudden a certain party got propelled with lots of online activity. Anyway, what I'm saying is, don't expect the favour to be returned. You'll be chewed up. You'll be used to compress the reform vote share so they can't form a majority government. They'll be pushed into forming a coalition with the same old characters in the Conservative Party who are behind this. Then that's what you'll end up with again. And I'm afraid the people who are currently backing the entity that is being used for that purpose will find that they're not given a thanks and they're not being considered. They've been useful idiots. Just saying, because that's true. That's just what's happening. Right, morning, gents. All right.
There you go. All right, geese.
All right, guys. Black Sun. Alex in Belfast. This is some message that's crept in from someone else's show. I don't think that's for us. Duncan may be correct. Who's Duncan?
Duncan Burke.
That was 4 hours ago. Hey, gallery, come on. You've left some things in my reading bin. I'm going to get rid of that. Do my own stuff. Oh. Right, here we go. 27 minutes ago, we're back in our zone. This is for us. This is definitely for us. It's from Jane. Good-o, the Chuckle Twins. Really look forward to you and Chokey.
Chokey.
What was our names before? There was
I can't remember.
No, it was Fatty and Dewey.
Fatty and Dewey. That was me. That was me. Andrew Gold.
Fatty
Fatty and Dewey.
Oh, Dan says, morning, Alex. Ed Davies said this morning on the BBC that Britain needs to rearm like it did in the 1930s. Britain knew the dangers of Nazism but didn't start rearming until Dunkirk in the 40s. In the 30s, the forces were proportionally the same as today. I know it's a little thing, but we want politicians factually right, please. Incredible to see Ed Davies got off a jet ski and is actually saying something sensible.
Well, he's schizophrenic, isn't he? He doesn't. He's wait because they don't really have politics. The Lib Dems is a luxury politics.
Oh, it's a Tupperware party. That's what I call it.
You know, and a good friend of mine is a Lib Dem MP, and she does some good work. But on a national scale, I don't think they're offering much use at the moment. But they normally talk about Elon Musk and Donald Trump like that's is relevant.
Well, like I said, it's a Tupperware party. It's sort of Waitrose women knitting their hemp or whatever, and talking like, oh, I don't really like Donald Trump. He's
but Ed Davey is right. I mean, of course, he can be right occasionally. We did start rearming in 37, actually. And had we not done, then come 39, 40, we would have been in a lot of trouble. And I think the point he may be trying to make, and I have no idea what goes on in Ed Davey's mind, so the point I would like to make at this point is if we don't start doing it now, then we are going to be in massive trouble. Because if you think we are safe, you're bonkers.
See, I love the military-industrial complex. I'm like, bring that on. Jobs, money, soft power, hard power, weapons, fighter aircraft. I love all of that. Sign me up. I just think back during the, it's one of those beautiful things when I guess we're both privileged to have had grandparents who fought in the Second World War. And people now, that generation's gone. There are people today who will never know about that war effort. And when I think back at, my grandparents' contributions to protecting this continent and our country, it's a real motivating...
Well, the difference that happens in this country is that we are taught about World War I and World War II, but it's seen as something apart from us.
Yeah.
If you are a much smaller country in Europe and you are constantly under the threat of Russia, you're taught history as if it's happening. You're not just taught history that's something that happened a long time ago. You're taught about it as if it could happen any day now, and please be aware. We had this sort of luxury of time where we've had a lot of peace, particularly on these isles, and, God bless that we have. But we are in imminent danger all the time, and there are a lot of people, but even on the right, that will tell you that Russia are no threat to us whatsoever. And that's always bemused me in some way, because Russia are always a threat. Yeah. Always a threat, no matter what politics you have.
Never underestimate Russia. They play chess far better than we do. Let's take a short break now, because actually we've got a brilliant guest coming up just after the break. We're joined by the Shadow Defence Secretary, James Cartledge, and we can be talking to him all about whether we can fight Russia, whether Labour will give up the goods to fund our armed forces, and what he would do if he was running the show. That's after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. Well, let's cross straight away to James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary, because Defence really is leading the agenda today, and for obvious reasons we had those two big resignations in response to the fact that, well, the Defence spending plan has yet to be published, and it was believed by both Al Carnes and John Healey that the government weren't going to stump up the cash. In fact, there would be a £10 billion shortfall to give our armed forces what they need as basic requirements. James, great to have you on the programme. Now, the new Defence Secretary, Dan Jarvis, has urged his government to meet the moment. I have a feeling we could see a Sir Keir Starmer U-turn on all of this. We don't yet know what's in the Defence Investment Plan, but how critical is our situation with the armed forces? If they do manage to scare up the $10 billion that Rachel Reeves seemed to have removed from the original offer, will that be enough?
I think, personally, they need to go to 3% of GDP on defence this Parliament. That's our position. And actually, it's a position of the House of Commons Select Committee, which is cross-party. So there's actually a lot of consensus that they need to go to 3%. The money involved in that, I think, would be enough. It would cover the rising costs which defence faces, which is basically because the whole world is trying to buy defence equipment, so it's become more expensive. But also, crucially, that extra funding that enables us to restore our competitive edge. I mean, just one thing that I don't think is spoken of enough. We actually were supplying Ukraine with some incredible weapons like drones and counter-drone technology. And when I was Defence Procurement Minister, I had a defence drone strategy which was we will learn from that to strengthen our own armed forces. And all that got put on hold when Labour came to power and they said, no, we're going to do a strategic defence review. Then they said, well, we've done that. But now we need to do a defence investment plan to work out what we're going to do. They've spent months and months. I keep asking them when it's coming. And you would have thought in that time they could have found the money. They haven't. We've had two major resignations. And frankly, the situation for the country now very serious. They really need to get a grip.
Where would you find the money in order to afford this? I mean, granted, you are Shadow Defence and not Shadow Chancellor, but money doesn't grow on trees. The cuts would have to be made elsewhere.
Of course, I'm a Conservative. I think that you have to show where you're going to get money from. And I was also a Treasury Minister and PPS to Rishi when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. So I feel very strongly that we should do that we should be responsible. So the first thing to do is to recognise the need for the money, which is why we said 3% this Parliament. Labour's position is still for the time being 3% in the next Parliament, which could be as late as 2034. We don't agree with that. Where's the money going to come from? Well, we think welfare's got to be a really important part of that. So we've said we'd restore the two-child benefit cap and spend the savings on defence. We've said we'd move $2 billion a year of R&D into defence to enable the armed forces to procure drones and counter-drone capability. But crucially, we've also said we'd move £11 billion from the National Wealth Fund, currently earmarked for Ed Miliband's net zero projects, into the defence industry. That is to strengthen the supply chain so that when we order those drones for the Army, Navy and Air Force, they are made by British SMEs who can then scale up to meet the training requirements of the armed forces, and eventually, if it comes, and I hope it doesn't, eventually to increase production should there be a much hotter military situation. So that's our plan, and we intend to say more about it, but we've set out some very significant savings.
I want to talk to you about this news that's been coming in overnight, where we've learnt that British Armed Forces have boarded a Russian Shadow Fleet oil tanker in the English Channel in the early hours of this morning. It was an operation that lasted 6 hours with Royal Marine Commandos and specially trained law enforcement officers from the National Crime Agency intercepting the vessel for the first time, supported by the RAF. Why has it taken us, I mean, not that you're in charge, but what is your understanding of why it's taken us so long to be able to do this? Because we saw ridiculous, farcical scenes, quite frankly, a couple of months ago, where a big Russian Shadow Fleet vessel was being basically escorted through the English Channel by other Russian naval vessels, with UK border forces just trailing behind in its wake. Why has it been so difficult to conduct this operation?
Well, you make a very good point. I mean, first and foremost, I welcome the fact this has happened. I think it is important that we interdict these vessels, and I pay tribute to the personnel, the Royal Marines, the Royal Navy, the Air Force personnel involved, because it's really important, not least to send the message to Putin that we're not going to tolerate it. But I agree with you, there is this obvious question. You may welcome the action, but hold on a minute, Keir Starmer said in March that he was going to do this. I think the BBC reckon there were, up to the middle of May, and from the time he made that pledge, there were 94 shadow vessels that passed through our territorial waters without being intercepted at all. Of course, given it's now June, presumably that number is higher, so it's taken some time. We have a new Defence Secretary who's done this. I hope it's a sign of things to come, because basically, the message, if you like, in defence is always the same. If you want to stand strong, if you want to deter aggression, you have to show that you're willing to confront it. So I do welcome this, and I hope that we'll now see more in terms of showing our strength to Putin. And if I may say, going back to our previous point, a big part of that has got to be getting a grip on the defence investment plan, so that it's not just these one-off operations, as important as they are, but the whole sense of the government is we found the money, we're now going to back defence. That's where we need to be, so that we're strong in every sense.
I have no doubt at your stance on how one should deal with the Russian threat. What I want to know is whether you might have made a different judgment call when it came to operations in the Middle East, because, of course, this government were very clear initially that they did not want Donald Trump to have his US Air Forces flying out of UK air bases. That, of course, was turned around. There was even conversations initially about not being able to use Diego Garcia, which, again, was turned around. But Sir Keir Starmer has made it very clear that any aggressive action against Iran was nothing to do with the United Kingdom, and has not put up any sort of support when it comes to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Was that a tactically sensible decision to make, or would the Conservative Party, would you, as a Defence Secretary, urge a different approach?
Well, I was very clear when I was asked on the media round pretty much when the situation kicked off with Iran, would we, if we'd been in government, have allowed the US to use our bases? And we said yes. I was very clear. I said, of course we would, because they're a very close ally, and it's in our interest. We never said, Kemi never said, we would join in the attacks on Iran. I don't think the US ever asked. That was the US and Israel. Those, direct action on Iran. That's not something we would have participated in. But as an ally, asking to use our air bases, we would have given permission, because there's something very important in all this, which I think can be missed. The US constantly helps support us. I think one of the reasons the Type 45 HMS Dragon took a while to be sent out is because there were 3 US destroyers out there that could protect Cyprus from, ballistic missile threat, etc. In other words, relying on the US to guard our bases while not giving them permission to use ours, which I think is totally unacceptable. And if I may, I actually think if you'd had Blair or Brown as Prime Minister, they would have given permission. I think it's extraordinary what Starmer did, because, he may have thought he was going to get political benefit from that. Well, I don't think he has, ultimately, given what may happen in the coming days. The point is, it was a strategic mistake, because right now, particularly with President Trump, we've got to do everything possible to keep the US committed to NATO, because it's massively in our national interest. I think it's in theirs, by the way. And yes, we would have given the permission. That doesn't mean we would have joined in the attacks. We would have stood by our ally, the United States, because ultimately then the Iranian nuclear program is a threat, and a threat to us.
Is part of the trepidation when it comes to tackling Iran, or even joining what some might say were very specially targeted surgical attacks on Iranian military infrastructure, rather than anything to do with civilian infrastructure or the civilian population? Do you believe that part of the trepidation to get involved at all and make it very clear that we were not involved at all might be because of the homegrown terrorism risk? Should we be, as a nation, rushing to prescribing the IRGC, the Muslim Brotherhood, and facing down risks from Islamic extremists in our own country?
Well, Kemi has said that we would vote with the government on, prescription if they had the evidence that was appropriate. I think, on the military question, which you asked quite rightly, I mean, it's worth stressing. It's not the position of Keir Starmer that he wants nothing to do with this. He does now allow the Americans to take off from Fairford and from Diego Garcia. In fact, you may have heard the Royal International Air Tattoo. It's not happening with the full air show it usually does, precisely because the US are using our Air Fairford where it's based. The point is, he U-turned. You talked about turning round. He U-turned. He's constantly U-turning. I think he's going to U-turn on social media on Monday. Hopefully he'll U-turn on 3% for defence. And there's one other issue, if I may, on defence. I hope a U-turn's on the treatment of veterans, because for everyone watching, I think when all is said and done, and the money's incredibly important, what's happening in Iran is incredibly important. But today, with the UK and the threats it unquestionably does face, surely the most crazy thing of all is to have a law which will see former British soldiers who served their country back in the dock for protecting us from terrorism decades ago in Northern Ireland. I think that's crazy, and so I hope, given the resignation of Al Khan's as a minister saying that this bill was basically unfit for purpose, I hope we'll see not just the U-turn on social media or U-turns on defence spending and all the other U-turns we've had. I hope passionately, because I back our veterans, that the Prime Minister will U-turn on his treatment of them, given the threats we face and the need to boost the morale of those who serve our country.
James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary, thank you ever so much. Love the fact he talked about Fairford Airship being cancelled. It's going to be the first year of my life I've not been, but it's OK, I live right next to Fairford, so I still get my private B2 and B-52 airshow.
You love it, don't you?
I do love it. B1s, not B2s. If only we had the B2s.
Do you go to any other shows?
I might go to Airborne this year. My brother lives down on the south coast, Eastbourne, and they have it, you can go sit.
Oh, yeah, they fly that out over the sea, don't they? So
yeah, I'm going to have to get my fix from somewhere.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
By the way, I enjoyed you nearly said Jan Darvis earlier. Which would be making it. Imagine if that's our defence secretary. I bet there is a Jan Darvis out there.
There
will be a Jan, get in touch.
Yeah, I feel like I know what I'm doing during the advert break. I'm Googling Jan Darvis.
She's out there.
I'm finding out what she looks like.
She's probably just as useful.
I bet she's in America.
Yeah, Jan Darvis.
There's every name possible is in America, all of them under the sun. Let's talk, though, before we go to break, about this whole argument over defence. It's a good thing, actually, finally seeing people take it seriously, because, we needed to be sorting out defence about, 20 years ago. Yeah. In the Falklands, during the Falklands conflicts, we had double the amount of the armed forces than we do today. And that was like the 1980s.
Yeah, look.
It's a crazy world we live in.
I was born in Portsmouth, grew up around Portsmouth, and so the Navy's have been a big part of my life. Know a lot of people that worked in the Navy, worked for contractors that work with the Navy. I know that there's been a steady decline in my lifetime, which is 40-odd years now, of investment into our defence. And I hate to keep beating the drum, but that's because we've had very left-leaning politics for nearly all of my lifetime, with the exception of perhaps Margaret Thatcher. And that's because the left are not patriotic. The left don't understand defence. I was sort of a 20-something when I first came to London and working with people in the city, and I was astounded. I was proud that I came from a naval city. I was proud of the military. And the amount of people that I came across that were absolutely aghast at the idea I might see any pride in our military whatsoever. And that's one thing I've learnt over the years, is that particularly on the left, there seems to be this luxury that peace has given us, that they don't need this sort of thing, and that they see the British military as something that's evil in some way. I don't know how they've got this warped version of the world, but it sits with them and it runs with them. And these people are now adults and they're in politics. It's incredible, really. And by the way, 3.5%, whatever it might be. Well, I think I've probably said it on your show before, Alex. A lot of that's going towards the nuclear deterrent. It never used to be part of the.
A lot of it goes towards pensions.
Pensions, nuclear deterrent, both of which, by the way, when we were in the Falklands War, and even the Gulf War, first Gulf War at least, were not part of the defence spending. So you imagine if that makes up 1-2% of defence spending, what that was being spent on previously. I'm enjoying the rhetoric right now, but that's all it is. That's all it is. Nobody's doing any more. All governments, all potential future governments are not talking beyond 3.5%.
Right, I know why. I'd like ramp it up to 5.
It should be 5, it should be 6, it should be 7%. Why shouldn't it be?
But also it creates employment, it gives purpose, patriotism, structure. There's huge societal benefits. On that note, should we have a little advert break benefit? Let's do it. Let's chill out. We're back after this.
violence on the streets, there's no excuse for that. And if there are protests following this, I just hope that they remain non-violent. I mean, you can understand the community concerns after an attack like that.
People were saying all around the world that's what British people now think. Have a listen to Rob from yesterday.
Morning, Jez. Well, yes, rightly, you shouldn't condone what happened. What else have people got to do? The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here, it's literally like putting a wolf in a sheep field.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Alex Phillips at the weekend. She's got a cox.
I'm all woman, but I got a cox. Or maybe that was also sort of a rowing.
It could well be.
Illusion.
I'm hoping it was referring to me. I'm a cox.
Or maybe it's apple-based puns.
Yeah, they were few and far between as I was growing up, as you can imagine.
Well, that little jingle scared up the weekend editor there. He came into the gallery and cocked an eyebrow at everyone. Oh, yeah, look at them in the gallery. Are they all going, oh, no. Oh. Right, should we do some messages and then get back to Charles? We've got loads of stories to cover today.
We have.
So much. Here we go. Let's do Richard in Northampton. My worry is that we will rearm with arms to fight World War II when drone warfare is the future. It's no good having those of tanks, which are effectively unusable. Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because drone warfare is where it's at. We've got that thing, what's it, Stormtrooper or something, like a brand new anti-drone. Where have we been having to use sort of missiles, conventional missiles, to take out Shahed drones? We've now got some sort of cool bit of kit that's like, you know, 1/100th of the price.
I've got an interesting but somewhat worrying fact with regards to drones in the UK.
Love interesting and worrying facts.
So we do help the Ukraine. The Ukraine are the world leaders in drone warfare now.
Saudi's getting that kit, aren't they?
On our side of the argument. And we own 8,000 drones. The UK military owns 8,000 drones. Ukraine use 200,000 per month.
Whoa!
So we would last about a third of a week in that type of warfare if we had to.
But I'm guessing these things can be manufactured at scale quite quickly.
They can do if you've got the ability to do so. But but what are we manufacturing? Yeah,
that's a good point. If you haven't got, like, you know, skyrocketing energy bills and, you know, Palestine action, you know, driving battering
the strongest countries in the world aren't panic manufacturing. They've got stockpiles.
Yeah.
And there might be things going on that I'm unaware of. Hopefully there is. But my fear is there's not.
I always think that. I always like to think to myself, oh, I bet we've got stuff hidden somewhere, when actually what's hidden is how bad it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's the fact that... Do you remember when, was it Grant Shapps as Defence Secretary or something? Someone went and stood on the front of the submarine to sort of, you know, see if the Trident rocket launchers still work. Do you remember that? And it just went whoop into the sea, and I was like, oh, God.
So bad.
And part of me thinks, I bet we're doing that just to, like, you know, make Putin feel like we haven't got it, but we have.
If that happened 30 years ago, that would be a valid thought. But right now, it's not. It's all... The biggest manufacturing... Do you know, statistically, the biggest manufacturing we've got in this country is for LGBTQ plus lanyards. We are the world...
No, are you kidding me?
No, I made that up.
Oh, damn it, because I win. It's so believable, though.
You could believe it. It is believable.
You know that lanyards kill, and they're all probably manufactured in China. We don't manufacture anything. Let's just write a charity cheque over to Beijing. Morning, Alex. As you are talking defence, today is the 44th anniversary of the Argentinian surrender on the Falkland Islands. R.I.P. to all that didn't return. And that was Taff in Dover, who himself is an ex-para. Beautifully put, Taff, and sentiments definitely echoed.
For sure.
Alex Cartridge will say Kemi is new and wasn't in charge for everything the Tories did wrong, but will take credit for what went well. They can't have it both ways. always true. Good morning, Alex. I like your outfit. Looking good, lovely, says Melanie in Cheshire. Thanks. Nice. Robin Portsmouth says that Restore video was quite sickening, frankly. Those guys were only missing red armbands. Whew, tough words. Alex, the music being played at Reform's office just proves that Rupert Lowe does not put the UK first. He puts his hatred of Farage first. Pathetic. And great show, Alex and Dave in London. Suella Braverman certainly not taking up your efforts to ask to comment on Restore, just letting them show themselves for what they are, just a protest party, sounding bitter on behalf of Rupert Lowe. Right, keep your thoughts coming in. The number is 03444991000 if you want to send a WhatsApp message or call up the wonderful Rory, who will take down your details. 87222 is the number to text. Write the word talk before you write your message. Then after the break, we've got loads more stories to get through, so we'll rumble through today's papers, and then at past, we're joined by Andrew Fox to continue talking about the state of defence. Don't go anywhere. We're back just after this.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. Good. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a world where insanity prevails, we bring you Starmerland, starring Alex Phillips and Paul Cox, coming to a radio station near you this summer.
Right, there we go. Starmerland! Starmerland sounds a bit like, you know, when people think there's sort of old civilizations and land masses, like Doggerland.
Oh, yes. You only ever hear on the Fisherman's Weather Report.
Yeah, and what is Doggerland?
That's an area in the North Sea.
Yeah, because, you know, you have all the sort of, you know, south at Zera, north at Zera, Dogger.
It's weird. Sometimes
Fisher.
You catch that very late at night or very early in the morning. I
always catch that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my body is now programmed to wake up ready for...
Not prowling. I'm out there on my way back from or on my way to some serious media work.
What, at 5 a.m? I'm always in bed at 5. I'm never out and about.
So some shows I do.
You're out and about like a weird pervert.
I get home at 5 a.m. from one show, that I do in the week, yeah. It's great. It's very light at 5 a.m. now. Very light.
When I used to present Weekend Breakfast, I actually weirdly quite enjoyed being up at 3 in the morning. And you would drive through the streets of London. I'd be in a little Uber or something, you know, whizzing through the streets of London. And there's no crime. There's no kids trying to nick your phone. There's nothing. And it's the weirdest thing, especially being in a capital city and not seeing another soul. It's like you kind of have this moment where you're like, I own this place.
Yeah. Some sort of Batman.
Yeah, I actually quite liked it. The older I get, the more I don't mind waking up early.
No, that's fine.
You sort of go through this cycle,
The older you get,
don't
the more you just enjoy waking up.
Yeah.
Yes, come on.
I'm still here. But, no, but like when you're a little kid, you want to get up really early. I remember when I was a kid, you know, sort of waking up at 6 a.m. and sort of wanting to go turn on the television to watch, like, you know, whatever programme was on, the kids' telly.
Have we got time? Because I've got an anecdote.
We've always got time.
So it just came back to me the other day. This would be mid to early 80s. I would have been about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And my mum had walked me home from school the previous evening, and I'd noticed a bird's nest in a bush near our home on the council estate we were living on at the time.
Clocked it, wanted it, needed
so
it.
I woke up early, sneaked out of my house and went to see if there were any birds in the nest.
Did you touch the nest?
I had a little touch with the nest, and
Did you get fleas?
And then sneaked. But I don't know what
Were there
happened.
eggs?
But that's. I sound a bit like this. Sounds a bit like Kes, but in a. But
Kes.
Kes was a great movie. I've
never realised the North. I used to live in the north of England, but I didn't realise it was that miserable until I watched Kes. It's like blimmin' heck.
It was a miserable film.
So miserable. But yeah, no, I used to wake up super early and want to watch all these things on telly. And then you get older and you're just like, oh, I don't want to get up, and alarm clock's your enemy. And now I'm sort of cycling back round to, I don't mind, but actually it gets to 9 o'clock at night and I'm like, is it bedtime yet? And you feel slightly guilty as well. Like I'm sort of sitting there trying to watch something on telly, feeling totally bored, kind of wishing I was in bed asleep. But there's something in my head, like, well, it's only 9, I've got to wait another hour. I don't know
I
why,
used to get up very early on a Sunday and watch something called Trans World Sport.
Oh, I remember Trans World Sports on Channel 4.
Which would be very different if it was...
that would have solved all of our problems, wouldn't it?
It was just... It trans the world.
It would have sorted so much out.
There was a lot of skiing on there, I remember.
There was a lot of skiing and weird things.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. The other day, because old Ratty's nagging me to get on with things, but I just wanted to say the other day, you'll be proud of me, I binge-watched the very first episode to the very last episode of Trapdoor.
Did you?
All of it.
This is what our producer was worried we would do, by the way.
I know. Trapdoor's the best. By the way, if you're at home and you're like, what is Trapdoor? If you didn't get to live through the 80s as a child, or the parent of a child, and weren't therefore graced with the amazing presence of Burke, Boney and Drutt, just get on YouTube. The whole episodes are there. It's just amazing. It's one of the greatest things. Also, how on earth did that, you know, the plasticine, and the creativity, all of it. I love it. I actually just want a big Trapdoor T-shirt. Burke!
I've got to get you one then, don't I?
Thanks,
I feel like I owe
you owe me a T-shirt. Yeah.
So I'm going to get you one.
Shall we speak to Peter in Newcastle?
Yes.
Peter. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm all right. No, I'm actually a member of Restore Britain. And I sometimes just feel like I think you unfairly represent the party, I think, sometimes.
OK, so what are you taking umbrage with? I mean, it wasn't me who wrote this article, by the way. That's the front page of the Daily Mail. I am the one who's received a lot of abuse online, that's a fact. And I do know a lot about Rupert Lowe's relationship with the Conservative Party, because we used to be MEPs together, and I've had eyes on of those things. So other than that...
The whole thing of the party having this like kind of slant where if they say something a bit too edgy, all of a sudden we're going into National Socialism. That's the thing that I find it actually does make me laugh to a certain extent, because it's very simple and I don't understand how people can't.
Okay, well let's talk about edgy then. Let's talk about what is edgy and what is let's say perhaps marginally frightening. Is it marginally frightening to have people within the party who think that all non-white people need to be remigrated, that they need to leave Europe? Is that edgy or is that scary?
So are you talking about the UK or Europe as a whole?
Well, let's talk about if there's people in the UK and Restore Britain who are part of that movement, then
I can only speak for myself.
Okay.
But this is the way I see it. Right, I served in the infantry for about 8 years. I only left the army in 2022. My grandfather served in the Second World War and stormed Gold Beach. His granddad was, I think, in one of the late Victorian wars. I had family members I had a family member that was at the Battle of Waterloo. My family have saved this country and saturated their blood.
Yeah.
I've served under arms. I've done the same thing. I am not going to be told by anyone that everyone, if you came here in the 1970s, you're just as English as I am. No, you're not.
Okay, so let's get back to let's get to the point in hand. And can I just say, before anything else, thank you for your service, and I do mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart, and I very much sympathise and share with you. It drives me mad when I think of the sacrifice made by my great-grandfather, who's lying in Philosophe Cemetery in northern France. My grandparents, who both fought tirelessly in the Second World War, never had a penny to their name, and gave all of their life. My grandfather, who every single Sunday would walk down to church and always took part in the Remembrance Day parades, and I myself am applying as a reservist. So I'm with you on all of this. What concerns me are some of the things that I've been seeing online with my own eyes and reading. People who are members of the party, people who are allowed to speak for the party, people who are platformed for the party, people I've interviewed here when we started talking about ethno-nationalism. And I said, OK, so how is that prosecuted as a policy? Because I personally, and everyone's entitled to their own views, but I personally care about the contents of someone's character. When it comes to skin colour, we're never going to be able to turn back the clock to sort of 1930s. It's too late. There are people who have multiple generations born and bred in this country, and I include my own family members in this. My brother is married to a Zimbabwean. Her parents were from Rhodesia. Where does this stop? What I'm saying is, and this is the front page of a newspaper, right, that there are people who are being platformed and standing underneath the name of your party who want people who are non-white to essentially be thrown out of the country. That, I think, is scary. Personally. Now, Rupert Lowe can choose to throw them out and say this has nothing to do with us, but he hasn't done that yet.
Alex, do you not think, though, this is a simple yes or no, right? This is not a hard question, in my opinion. OK, did we have a better society when it was more homogenous?
Yes.
Yeah, OK. And I listen to you a lot. Right, and some of the things you say, I completely agree with. You've said loads of things before, and I've sat there and went, actually, that's fine.
But let's go back to my point here, Peter, because what I'm trying to understand, because we're having a two-way dialogue. And so what I want to understand from you, and so I'll ask you a simple question in return. Okay. You asked me, did I think that society was better when it was more homogenous? Absolutely. And I think homogeny is built upon culture. I think it's built upon belief. I think it's built upon shared languages and mores. But when it comes to people saying that non-whites should be sent out of the country, that's when I say, that's my stepsister. Okay. That's my friend who I was just having dinner with last night.
Do you not think then that you have, obviously, then you have a bias then? I can only...
So you think non-whites should be sent out of Britain?
Basically, the way I see this country is if we could reverse most of the change that happened since 1997, we would be a better society.
So how would we do that? Do we then decide that people who don't have white skin have to be sent out of the country? That's what I'm asking. That is what this story is about.
No, I understand. Alex, with what happened in Belfast, and every week, you just spoke about it before with the guy that you're speaking to, the comedian guy who's... I did see you on another programme, and I did like what you said. With what happened in Belfast and that poor girl who was stabbed in the neck, right? Yeah. What I'm saying is everything now is accelerating.
I agree, but
people believe that we are going to fix this by going, oh well, we can be nice to some. Alex, people are getting so angry.
Well, I know that, but do you think, therefore, that the right policy approach, if it were to be made a policy, is that non-white people should be sent out of the UK?
In some measure, yes.
OK, well, you know, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. And I'm glad we've cleared that up, because that's where you and I differ. because I'm all for mass deportations of people here illegally. I'm all for preventing people who are not contributing to our society, who are not born here, taking from us. I'm all for massively restricting immigration. I'm all for making sure that our culture is the majority culture. And if you want to come and do your X, Y, Z and it's part of a different religion or culture, then sorry, you can't. But I draw the line, massively draw the line at judging people and coming up with policy based upon skin colour, because that, to me, is a path to tribalism. That, to me, is a path to extreme violence and slaughter and genocide and all sorts of ghoulish things that no nation wants to see. When you start attacking people based upon their outward appearance or their bloodlines...
All the time, Alex, we get attacked all the time. The amount... Every day there is racial attacks. Look at Henry Novak.
I get that.
Perfect example.
And we should call it racism, because it is.
Right, OK, exactly. So we're on the same page then. If we are... Right, OK. If 250 plus thousand girls were raped, right, it is the biggest crime ever in the history of our country. There's nothing that compares to it.
Right.
If we had any self-respect as a people, we would have thrown every one of those people off a cliff.
But that's... OK, but look, we could... I would say, rounding up anybody who was part of grooming gangs, anybody who knew about it and covered it up, including native Brits who were, you know, social workers or in the police or counsellors who kept stum or looked the other way. If it came to punishing those people, deporting people, then fine.
Discriminate. If you're a member of the social services and you're English, you could be 1,000-year English. They get away with it. No. I'm just saying that a lot of those guys that did that were born in England.
Yeah, I know.
They are British citizens. So if you're saying that if you're a British citizen, you can't go back, what do I have in common culturally with some sheep herder from Kashmir?
But OK, but equally, what do you have in common with St John and Camilla, who are as white and British as they come, who support Palestine action? It's not always that simple, Peter.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Do you know what? We probably agree far more than you think we do.
Well, exactly. But like I said, if if Restore Britain are comfortable with sending people out of the country because their skin colour's not white or they haven't got 4 generations of Britishness or whatever the arbitrary threshold is, that's where I personally draw a line. Peter, thank you ever so much for your call. It's always interesting to have these debates. Paul, do you know what I got from that conversation? When push comes to shove, people are angry and people are upset. And I can hear that in Peter, and I get it, because he's right. We actually agree on almost everything, except people are so angry and so upset and so desperate they want to see immediate, drastic measures. But they haven't thought through some of the consequences. And this is what I find dangerous about this lot, because I'm pretty sure if push comes to shove and Peter was faced with some of the people he served on the front lines with, who might have been of Asian descent or black descent, and then he was told, right, you personally have to go to that person and their family, make them pack their bags and send them out of the country to Lord knows where, if they were born and bred in Britain. I'm pretty sure Peter would say, well, I wouldn't do that because he's a good guy. I know him, he's all right. The difficulty is when it gets up to this level, and I've seen this. I've seen this in elections in places like Kenya. It doesn't matter whether somebody is the nicest person on planet Earth. If you're from that tribe, you're gone. And it's just indiscriminate. There's no nuance. And this is what is terrifying. And people, I really understand their impatience and their desperation and their hurt and their feeling we're at a cliff edge. We are. But it isn't solved by shouting extreme empty promises that have not been thought through, that actually will end up somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah, look, first of all, it's great that Peter feels he can call talk, have that open discussion. It was really good to hear his views. It's incredibly sad to hear how angry he is. I feel that anger too.
I feel for it.
You and I stop at the same point. We have our boundaries at the same point. But Peter, within that anger is some fear, and Peter's justified to feel fear. And when you're scared, things just become very binary. It's like, I want rid. I want rid. It keeps being these people. They keep having this skin colour and they have these religious views, and we have to get rid. Because when you see the attempted beheading, when you see the stabbing of a 17-year-old girl, when you see the mass raping of disenfranchised working-class white girls at the hands of a Pakistani Muslim gang, it makes you just go, do you know what? There is only one route here, and it's to get rid. It's to get rid and get rid now. However, there is a number of practicalities, and there was a time we talked about harmogeny. Peter mentioned harmogeny to form the basis of his argument, and you know I agree with that. There was a time of harmogeny, but that harmogeny included a ratio of skin colours. It wasn't just a white UK, and as such,
we had an English civil war when we were only white people. You know,
so I think it is important, and this is why I mean I get accused of being a civnat and not an FNAT.
I am a civnat,
but I don't see that. But I'm very happy with that. That's not an issue for me, and I'm happy to have that debate. It's very, very, very unlikely I'm going to become an FNAT. But I can understand why people get to that point.
The difficulty is the cultural vandalism's happened. What has happened to this country should never have happened. And I think what we need to do is come up with a slate of policies which actually lays down the majority culture and says, do you know, in this country, we don't have schoolgirls covering their heads. Women don't wear burqas. That we actually pre-stun our animals because we care about animal welfare. That we don't want faith schools, apart from if they're Christian and Catholic, because that's, you know, our state religion. Otherwise, you have to fit in with us. If you're a young Muslim girl, sorry, you're going to have to go to a school. But the problem is it's too late now. You look at the demographics of schools in London, the vast majority, white children are the minority. And so it's like trying to bail out the boat. And I'm not saying we shouldn't care about this. We blimmin' well should. But this stuff is not a solution. This is just shouting and feeding anger and turning up the volume even higher, rather than going, these are the practical measures. This is as far and as hard as we can go that's going to actually deliver the results. Not just shouting, swearing, using words like invader scum, millions must go, let the midges eat them, let's bring back public hangings. What on earth is that? I thought that man was an adult. What is that? Does he know what's being written on social media in his name? I mean, that's just mad.
Yeah.
It's not sensible. I understand people's desperation, but that is just mental.
Yeah, public hangings for me.
Where have we got it?
Very much. I'm very rarely shocked, and I don't know if I quite reach shocked, but the idea that hanging is the solution to me is way beyond.
But it was written under Rupert Lowe's name on a social media post. Now, whether it was written by him, arguments open for that, but it was there. It was written by him that, you know, bring back hangings. And anyway, I just... Great.
In order
there
for
are some people who want civil war.
Here's the thing, and Nigel Farage and Reform are much further down that journey than Restore UK are. There comes a point where you realise in order to win anything, you've got to win over much larger swathes of the constituency, the wider UK constituency, than you currently command because of your right-wing politics. You have to take a bunch. You have to win hearts and minds, and this is what it goes back to. What I was saying earlier. Look, if you see extremism on the right and you're in that sort of twilight zone between thinking, I once was a Labour voter, I may have even voted Tory to save Brexit, and I want to go Reform or I want to go Restore, but I just don't feel that I can because of that rhetoric, then that's a huge problem.
Yeah, it's a huge
because
problem.
you're never going to achieve the success you need to make the change.
I dare say the nomenclature, to sound very similar, was also deliberately chosen. I've been in politics long enough to know all the tricks. On that basis, let's take a little break. I'm sure there are lots of you who want to talk about this subject and many others, and if that is you, we love to hear from you. We want to talk to anybody, especially if you back Restore. I'd be very fascinated to have a conversation with you about why you think that is the best way forward. 03444 999 1000. And this is a completely open space. You can say anything you like. If you say something so bad we have to press a magic button so Ofcom don't get us, we will. Chris's finger will be at the ready. But no, I think it's really important we actually have conversations about this rather than scream crazy things, because we're at a knife edge, we're at the 11th hour, we haven't got time to mess about. We have not got time to waste an opportunity right here. We have the West to save, so let's blimmin' get on and do that, shall we? 03444 999 1000 is the number to call. It's your normal network rate. 8722 is the number to send a text message. Write the word talk before you text, and you can also send a WhatsApp or leave me a voice note on WhatsApp. Also on 03444 999 1000. We're back after this.
we've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Wow, 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 wow. We're lighting up like direct line hotline. Yeah, it's all going on. Let's speak to Kevin, who is in Warsaw in Poland. Hello, Kevin.
Pointing out the ethno-national problem. Now, in Poland, there is a history of what happened with ethno-nationalism, where over 100,000 people were brutally murdered through it.
Yeah.
When people get to desperate measures, these things happen. What worries me is what's seen in my country at the moment. I said I did 10 years in the military, to your call person. I don't want to thank you for my time. I did it. I did 10 years, and that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about on that. But I saw the sectarian violence in the Northern Ireland on the 3 tours I did over there. What I'm scared of is our country turned into a sectarian, violent hellhole with this ethno-nationalism rising up. I really am disgusted by this being carrying on with this Restore Party. I can't vote Reform because I don't trust Nigel Farage, but that's my personal opinion, which is why I'm politically homeless.
Right.
I don't trust people from like the Nadine Morris and all that, because these are the people that caused the problem we're in now.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to have an open discussion about all of this, but we also have to accept the fact that the grooming gang people, they go. The wife and the kids, if they're involved with it, they go. There's no ifs, there's no buts, there's no this thing, and we also have to deal with the academics and the liberal left and deal with them as fast as possible, because that's where the cancer is.
Oh, I agree. I agree entirely, because it's interesting. I'm glad you sort of brought that up, because there are plenty of people, when you look at the people on the pro-Palestine marches, you can't deport them. They're as British get, some of these people. Do you know what I mean? You know, the woke left are usually not from the ethnic minorities. But what you make a really important point. I was just saying to Paul, when I worked in elections in Africa, one of my main jobs as a communications strategist was to do everything I could to try and prevent post-election violence. And I've seen people buying pangas, machetes off supermarket shelves, dragging them through the streets of Kibera to sharpen the blades. I know what that looks like. I have seen videos of mass slaughters that, you know, people... too early in the morning to discuss some of the things I've seen. I know what it looks like when a country goes like that on tribal grounds. And you are absolutely right, Kevin, that, you know, ethno-nationalism and balkanisation, we are basically already there. And so we're now in a situation, I think, of crisis management. And that's why we've got to be so blimmin' careful not to turn up the temperature too hard without having any sort of democratic solution.
Exactly. But if people really want to know how brutal it is, go and learn the history of Voina. Or Voin. It was on the what is now Western Ukraine. And how they killed people there was so brutal. I can't talk about it on here because obviously it will cause a problem for you.
Yeah.
But people need to understand exactly how evil that is.
Yeah. No, exactly. This is what I'm saying. I'm no way soft and left. I haven't suddenly bottled it. I've not gone woke. I want some of the most hardline democratic solutions that legally can be provided, but also in a way that is humane. I personally don't believe in things like, you know, I personally don't believe in the death penalty, but that is something else that other people discuss. But I think you're right. Anybody who was partook in what went on in those grooming gangs, if they've got a dual passport, they're stripped of their English passport and they're sent back to Pakistan. If they have British passport only, so we can't deport them, they are thrown into some sort of prison camp, chain gang, I don't care, never to come out. If you are somebody who covered up on their behalf, you also need to face the full force of the law. Whether you're a social worker, a policeman, a local council, if you knew what was going on and deliberately stifled that information getting out, you have blood on your hands and you deserve to be sent down for a very, very long time. If it means building big max, big, huge super max prisons, let's blimmin' cut welfare and do that. Let's do everything we can to be as tough as possible, but just screaming about people of a different skin colour all having to be sent out, I know where that leads. I know where that sort of language ends up. And it ain't pretty, and people need to be very careful if they think that's going to be a solution.
But just to end on a note, before I go, is I see Rupert Lowe as a modern-day Oswald Mosley. He's giving hope to those that feel hopeless.
I think in many respects you're right about that. I think people do feel desperate and hopeless, and there is this sense, because he sort of ups the ante and goes one step further, that it does feel like, wow, someone gets it. And so I do understand the allure. But there's a big difference between, and also, sometimes things are said a little bit too far, in my opinion, but there's a big difference between giving that sense of being listened to, being seen, and being able to provide a democratic outcome. And actually, if you look on policy, if you compare, say, Reform, Restore and the Conservatives, right, if you put them all side by side on what they say they're going to do, you can barely put a fag paper between them policy-wise. And so what we're in a situation now is that who shouts the loudest and the most extreme might garner support, but then actually the vote splits in three directions and we end up back with a left-wing party. So this is where we've got to box clever and be sensible. And I just don't feel like sensible is being heeded enough. Kevin, thank you ever so much for your call. It's been really, really good having your contribution, can I just say. Paul, your thoughts before we whiz off to a break?
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think making the comparison with Mosley is as much as I understand is unhelpful. I don't think we should. Look, we watched Farage get demonised endlessly, right? So to demonise Rupert Lowe, who is presiding over these characters, and if he wants to do anything, needs to make some changes within that party. But to demonise him and say that he is evil, which is what...
Well, I feel that Kevin was sort of almost suggesting the comparison to Oswald Mosley wasn't unfavourable.
Right, OK.
But I don't know.
Right.
We would have to get
so
him
maybe
back to sort of clarify
then
that,
I would agree with that. And
that's why I didn't say anything.
I don't want to put words in Kevin's mouth.
No.
Well, but there is a finite area of tolerance to work within to make sure that you get the best out of politics, right? Particularly if you're on the right. So demonising Rupert Lowe to try and push any other candidate forward isn't the right way to go for it. Do it on policy only. And when you look at the policy and it's very similar, then it becomes very tricky. So what you need to understand is what is it that Rupert Lowe is going to do differently other than energise the extreme right, and then have the debate on that basis. I don't think Mosley and Lowe are akin, but you know what? If they carry on going down the same lines and totally become ethno-nationalists, then it will be an issue for them, because nobody's got the stomach for that. One of the great things about being British is we have a level of tolerance. People aren't going to go that far. It's why Mosley didn't achieve a great deal in the 30s and 40s. That's why the BNP didn't. Really, so that's the nth degree I don't think enough people will ever be willing to go to.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating when you can see, like, potential victory being grabbed. Defeat being grabbed from the jaws of victory, whatever it is. We're in a situation where we could actually have completely different politics. So there'll be points. Like, let's just blow up. But is it us blowing ourselves up? Again, we've got to go to break soon. But again, I know how things work, and there are elements you have no idea how much the establishment do not want Farage to win, and they will do anything, including help that to stop it. Just all I'm saying.
It's a gift.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's like having Cassandra complex when you know too much. It's like, how do I explain? Let's, after the break, we're going to be talking to the brilliant Andrew Fox, Senior Associate Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, former Major in the Parachute Regiment. We're going to be talking to him, of course, all about the Armed Forces defence, the Middle East, and perhaps even this topic if he's up for it. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, Paul and I have decided we don't want to work anymore. We're just enjoying conversations with us. So it's just like, we'll just turn off the feed and have a chat between ourselves. We like hanging out too much. It's barely work at all, is it? Right, let's speak to the brilliant Andrew Fox, Senior Associate Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, former Major in the Parachute Regiment. Good morning to you, Andrew. It's been a while. How you doing, old lad?
Very good indeed. Just enjoying the weather and taking the time out to have a chat to you, my friend.
I hope you got some Factor 70 for your pate. Right, let us talk about... First of all, let's talk about the armed forces and the funding that the armed forces need. There have, of course, been two big resignations, understandably so. The £10 billion shortfall, which is actually equivalent to how much we pay foreigners for welfare per annum, as it happens. But if that is then met, if there is a U-turn now, and Jarvis managed to get Rachel Reeves to give the £10 billion to the armed forces, is it still going to be enough? Is it going to be spent correctly?
Well, I think we both know the answer to that, and it's nowhere near enough. Look, the odds of Dan Jarvis fixing this in 3 weeks when it's been a year in the making under the previous two ministers who just quit, I think is fairly slim. I put something together for the Henry Jackson Society just 2 weeks ago, looking at what was actually needed, and I worked out at least 140 billion over 5 years is what's needed to get us anywhere near the start state that was articulated in the Strategic Defence Review. So really a few extra billion here and there is a drop in the ocean. What I would say, of course, is that we have to make sure that the MOD and the three armed forces actually spend it properly. It's worth repeating, we have the 6th biggest military budget in the world, and yet we have nothing like the 6th most capable military. And that suggests a real problem with how we're spending the money, not only a shortfall in the money that we need, but actually how we use it once we get it. And, you know, there's a whole box of problems here that need to be solved. The odds of it happening in 3 weeks, I think, are pretty slim.
Where is most of our funding being hemorrhaged, if not spent on the front line? Are we looking at things like largely pensions?
Well, there's been a lot of sleight of hand over the last sort of 16, 17 years. It started with Cameron and Osborne, where they put in an 8% real-time cut and then claimed they were maintaining 2% of GDP by folding in the nuclear budget and armed forces pensions into the defence budget. So there's lots of trickery and sleight of hand in how much we're actually spending on the front line. And that undoubtedly reduced in 2010. And I was serving then. I remember my friends and I were waiting to find out if we were going to be made redundant, and all of a sudden we had staff shortages all over the place. So this is not a new phenomenon, but also let's look at where the money goes on the front line. You know, Ajax is now many years out of date. It's many years delayed in its delivery, and what we've got doesn't even work properly because it vibrates so much it makes soldiers physically ill. So, you know, there are catastrophic procurement decisions, there have been catastrophic cuts decisions, and there have been catastrophic decisions on putting the money where it needs to go. So there's a lot to unpack, and Dan Jarvis, frankly, has got a hell of a job ahead of him.
Talk to me now about the interception of the one vessel from the Russian Shadow Fleet. My understanding is since 2022, there have been about 700 odd of these vessels that have managed to pass through UK waters unencumbered. And I thought that at one point the reason we didn't intercept them was something to do with international maritime law or some such nonsense. But is this, actually a glimmer of hope that finally, at least, on this one particular vessel, we've managed to finally get our act together?
Well, first of all, well done to the UK Commando Force. It's not an easy thing to fast rope onto a moving ship at night, and they did a good job well. So all credit to the troops. I do find the timing slightly suspect, just as two defence ministers walk out and Keir Starmer is in a political storm around defence. We suddenly find the will and the legal methodology to intercept one of these Russian Shadow Fleet tankers when we've let hundreds through the channel over the last couple of years. That does strike me as slightly politically staged. But the fact that we've done it now has hopefully opened the door, and that should, fingers crossed, mean that we can do it more.
That's very interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. That is, very interesting. Finally finding the legal methodology to do this. It's a really interesting insight there. OK, what about the Middle East? Donald Trump's 80th birthday today. Yet again, we're hearing that there's going to be a peace deal. Except I feel like I've heard this every single day for the past Lord knows how many months. And it's clear to me that even if there is someone who's half sensible and half witted in Iran saying that let's get together and sign a document, the IRGC seem hell-bent on continuing to chuck missiles at their neighbours and at anything that tries to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
Look, we're in wild speculation as to what's going to be in any deal, or even if there is going to be a deal. The Iranians are denying it. Trump is saying it. How much Trump is trying to reassure the markets, we don't know. But look, the irreducible baseline here is that the nuclear material is dealt with in some way or another, and it gets removed from the regime. That's going to be far harder to do than to talk about, because they've been collapsing the tunnels above the buried nuclear material. They've been mining those sites. Clearly, they're not in any position that they're going to be rushing to hand that over to China or Pakistan or the United States or whoever else it might be. Obviously, if it's buried underground, that's going to make it very hard to dilute as well. But I think we can safely say, even though we don't know what's going to be in the deal, if a way of dealing with the nuclear material isn't in the deal, then it is a disaster in every imaginable way. That's before we even get to Iran's rocket capabilities, its drone capabilities, and its funding of its proxies around the Gulf, which is, of course, the biggest single cause of instability in the Middle East is the Iranian regime and their proxy forces, which they have spent over a decade creating in order to try and destroy the state of Israel as part of their religious mission. So it's very, there's not much verifiable information out there at the moment. We can't jump to any conclusions about what the deal is going to look like. But at the moment, I think we're still very much in the talking phase rather than the signing phase. So we'll see what happens in the next 48 hours.
Now, to pivot to a very different subject, but it's sort of dominated our conversation so far this morning. The Henry Jackson Society, of course, also does a huge amount of research into extremism and counter-extremism and terrorism. And I wanted to get your read on our situation in the United Kingdom. A couple of weeks ago, Kemi Badenoch gave an interview where she highlighted there being a real and present threat of something akin to civic unrest, potentially civil war. We've heard that from Professor David Betts, who is a top war historian, suggesting that the UK now faces such risk, such tribalism, and has such weak infrastructure protections that actually it wouldn't take much to light the blue touch paper in this country. We've seen big riots taking place in Brussels lately, supposed student protests, but for the most part, to someone who used to live in Brussels, they look like migrant riots. We've seen things taking place in Belfast after the horrific attempted beheading that took place there. How worried are you about where we are in this country, about how close we might be to suddenly break, to suddenly lose control?
Well, I think that the thing that reassures me is I don't think we're at the point of no return yet. Whereas I think there are potentially places in Europe like Brussels that may have well passed that point. And the question is, I think, what we do about it now, and with what amount of urgency we do it. And actually, Denmark gives us a pretty good model for ways to get around this problem. In talking about deporting criminals and all that sort of thing, yeah, absolutely. But also making sure that there aren't migrant clusters and, self-ghettoisation in cities. Making sure that if people come here, they speak English. Making sure that if people come here, they have the means to support themselves if they're not, genuine asylum seekers. There's a raft of different things we could be doing now that would take us off the pathway that you've just articulated. And my biggest concern is that we have a government who seem to have no inclination to take any of those measures whatsoever because they're scared of alienating a significant part of their voter base.
Very well put, Andrew. Thank you ever so much. It's been delightful to catch up again. It's been a short while. The brilliant Andrew Fox, ladies and gentlemen. It's always interesting. He's a cool, sound voice of reason. And he's a tough old geese, isn't he? You wouldn't mess with him, would you?
I wouldn't personally.
No, you would not mess with him.
If that's what you're asking me to do, I will not.
Please don't mess with Andrew
I'll just
Fox.
roll over and pretend to be dead like it was a brown bear or something.
But it is... It does interest me, actually, that more and more people have picked up on this dynamic of... And it's funny. So I was staying in a hotel in London these last couple of days, and I walked back through London last night, something I almost never do. And I had a sense, and I've hated London, and I felt unsafe here for so long, but I weirdly had this sense yesterday of it feeling better. And I don't know why that is. There was something. People were out. It was sort of a warm evening, lots of crowds on the street, people of more nationalities. But I didn't see the sort of kids on the bikes with machetes. I don't know. It just seemed... I don't think anything's massively changed. Maybe it's just my sort of hopeful perception. But I actually also think that what Andrew Fox said was quite important, that having lived somewhere like Brussels, and when you look at the ghettoisation in the outskirts, the banlieue of Paris, you do actually realise that the UK isn't as far gone as some European countries when it comes to these sort of shared continental issues we're facing. And Denmark has come out of a load of really hardline, stringent social policy, and it's a left-wing government. There can be quick political solutions.
Of course, because they cannot be entirely co-opted by the absolute mentals. I mean, usually a government, when they're put in power, particularly up to a certain period of time, maybe 10, 20 years ago, did see their duty, irrespective of which wing of politics they sat on, was to protect the incumbent culture, protect the incumbent constituents. And that's been entirely failed in the UK. I would agree with you with regards to the comparison with particularly Paris. I've been to both Paris, Brussels and London, obviously, in the last 12 months. And Paris is especially iffy. To say that it properly is. Yeah. And, it's not quite the city I expected it to be. And it was actually my first visit there in 2025, which is crazy.
And I bet you didn't even go right to the outside, did you? The sort of ring of evil that surrounds it.
I did not. But you travel through that. You can travel through those places in a cab, and you can see it for what it is. And the further you go out, it is a bit of a third world country, shall we say. I don't feel any problem in saying that whatsoever. Look, we have to get to a point where whoever is in government, no matter how unpopular it is, they are trying to keep us safe. And that seems an astonishing thing for me to say, and for people probably watching this now, listening to this now, thinking, yeah, absolutely, I don't feel safe. Now, I do... I'm sure you feel safe where you live. I feel relatively safe where I live.
Safe as houses where I live, son.
But exactly, as ours is. And the closer you get into any of the metropolitan cities, the less safe you feel, for sure. I actually spend time in London in some fairly nice, salubrious parts of London, and you do feel safer. That, by the way, is where the people, the left-wing activist agitators live. They make sure that they live in these places.
It's so
true. They live in Highgate and Hampstead Heath, and they live in these places where it is primarily their type of people that live. And the ones and those that are of a different nationality, rarely a different culture, a different nationality, are of the similar mindset, and they're intellectual or they're educated in some way, and they're not causing them anywhere near the problems that you're seeing in the East End of London, for instance. So I don't think a lot of these activists are so unqualified to talk about the problems that other people face. And the trouble is, because of the demographic, because of the sort of economic situation, a lot of the people that have to live alongside these people of different culture, because they are unable to articulate themselves maybe the way you and I could, or certainly like Andrew could, very eloquent guy, they find themselves saying how they feel. They find themselves only using the words that are available to them. Nothing wrong with that, but they can be sneered at by the very people that are judging them.
The distinction between, say, Douglas Murray and then someone like Tommy Robinson, who for a long time was saying the same thing, but one is, you know, Oxford educated, extremely eloquent and an academic, and the other was brought up on the mean streets of Luton. But by and large, what they were pushing for and highlighting was really similar. And it's interesting, isn't it? The one who gets lauded and gets published, and the one who gets persecuted. We still live in a very snobby society in the UK, that is for sure.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's take a short break. We're going off. What is this? It's like some sort of the moral maze.
Well, who better to do it than us?
I know, we're just the maze. Right, OK, guys, if you want to get in touch, we're going to be doing calls after this, and it'd be really good to open up the conversation and talk with you how you feel Britain is, what's going on, is it as bad? Are we getting a little bit too hysterical from the hyperbole of the algorithms of social media, that we sit there being fed this stuff, the doom and gloom all the time? But actually, if you were to put the phone down and just go for a walk around your neighbourhood for the next week or so, you might think, oh, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Or have we all been told it's not as bad as we think, and all been told, oh, diversity is our strength, there's nothing to see here? But actually, we are a simmering pot about to boil over. It's a hard one to actually be able to perceive, believe it or not, but can you? Let us know. 03444 99 1000 is the number to call. It's your normal network rate. You can also send a WhatsApp message on that number or leave a voice note. 8722 is the number if you'd rather send a text. If you're going to do that, write the word talk before you text. Put the kettle on. We're back in a moment.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Live on a Sunday, Alex and Paul, or Phillips and Cox. Just depends how you like them.
Depends how you like them.
It does.
I don't know, I like my people served up surname first. I went to a boys' school for sixth form, and it's sort of like, at a girls' school, you're always called by first name. At the boys' school, it's their surname first.
Yeah.
And so I was always Phillips, and then the boys turned it into just Filth for short.
Did they?
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
I've had my surname shouted at me.
Yeah. But I like surname first. That feels very British, doesn't it? Bring that back.
It does a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. You know, there was a time when I thought that was quite snobby, but now I kind of long for that kind of snobbiness.
Well, it's sort of a mixture from sort of like, you know, sort of school, proper sort of grammar school, boys' school, military, and then football, you know, or military.
True, yeah.
It's just... It's
Bring
kind
it
of...
back.
It represents a hierarchy, doesn't it? Surname first. God save the king. Then I said that with anger. God save the king. Steve, actually talking about God save the king, Steve says, Alex, I'm feeling better. Maybe it was because of trooping of the colour. London would have been full of patriots. There'd have been more police around. So, yeah, maybe that's why it felt a bit safer. True.
That's very true, actually.
Can we just troop the colour all the time?
We could do. It might get boring, but if it keeps us a little bit safer.
When I was in Florida, they had mounted police, and their horses were like Shire horses. You know, we've got normal-looking horses, like racehorse-type-looking horses, but they had like big, clunking, fat-footed, like Welsh cobs or something, like boxing around like this, and their tails were like plaited with like neon flashing lights.
Wow.
And I was like, and they had like stormtrooper helmets, and I was like, that's what I want.
That does
That
sound
would be
quite
great
cool.
if that was just going around
Can
the
they
UK
move quickly,
neighbourhoods.
a Shire horse? Can they?
Yeah, I could probably gallop a fair. I mean, you're obviously not going to enter it into the Grand National.
No.
But they've got all the same gears, haven't they? I'm sure they sort of walk, trot, canter and gallop.
You say that. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. You know, they're trying to force equality on everything, haven't they?
Equality of like Shetland ponies, just like running through the hedge.
Yeah.
A little tunnel underneath. Yeah, the big horses jump over and the Shetland.
They've got to. That's how they identify. This identifies as a racehorse, so we must.
I didn't realise the sort of big difference in types of horse and their ways until the other day. Well, no, like Shetland ponies are mean. Everyone knows that.
And I could identify as a jockey. I'm not a small guy, so imagine me on the back of a Shetland doing the Grand National. That would be quite the scene.
Imagine the Shetland on the back of you.
That's how it should be.
That's equality. That's end the patriarchy. Let the horse ride the rider. I don't know where we're going with this. Let's speak. Hopefully, Brian in Blackpool will save us. Hello, Brian. How are you doing? Good morning.
Morning, Alex. Nice to talk to you after 13 years. I took you in my London cab with Nigel Farage many years ago.
Hey!
And I took you when you lived in Earls Court as well.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah. Anyway, referring to what I want to talk about, we're talking about Rupert Lowe. In the 1950s, I was 16 years of age, and I was on the door of a Jewish festival at the St Pancras Town Hall. And up to turn the black shirts. Well, as far as I am concerned, Rupert Lowe's supporters, I can't say that, but I don't know Rupert Lowe personally, but the supporters are very akin to Mosley.
Yeah, do you know, I do know Rupert Lowe personally, and I don't think that Rupert Lowe is anything like his supporters, if I'm honest. I don't necessarily, he's not my favourite person in the world, but I actually don't think that what is said under his name and under his watch, but I do think that he knows full well what is being said under his name and under his watch. That's my difficulty here. He wouldn't say this stuff himself, but he doesn't seem to be shutting it down either.
Yes, well, that's the problem. His supporters are very virulent, especially online. If I put a little piece about his green companies, his heat pumps and his batteries, and the anti-Semitic reports I got back from his supporters are untrue.
Yeah, no, it's true. He did actually make a lot of money from net zero. Couldn't make this stuff up.
Yeah. Anyway, can we now talk about Andrew Fox? I'm pleased you had him on.
Yeah.
He is the most fantastic soldier. He's actually performed in the field, as I have in the Israeli forces. He knows what he's talking about. Unluckily, Talk and other channels have Tobias Elwood, who's a pen pusher. That's never done in a day's conflict in his life.
Yeah, no, Andrew Fox is a very dear man. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's a rare creature in this day and age, but equally extremely intelligent, knows his stuff, and a great analyst. Brian, thank you ever so much. It's been lovely having a conversation with you. We've got time as well to speak to Amardeep, who is in West Midlands. Did I pronounce your name correctly there?
Yes, you did, yeah.
Good, I'm glad I did. I sort of took a plunge, and I used to live in India, so I sort of felt like I had a slight chance of getting it. How are you doing? What do you want to talk about?
Just wanted to make an observation on the conversation we've been having this morning, or this afternoon even. And this isn't me trying to goad in any way. This is me telling you what I feel and feel a lot of my peers feel. Yeah. I'm a second-generation Asian.
Yeah.
Born in this country, you know, brought up as an Englishman, you could say. But I always feel, and I know a lot of my people in the similar position to me also feel, that our citizenship or our Englishness is on loan until one of us does something that doesn't seem to fit with English people's notion of Englishness. The other point I wanted to make about this is, and I'm not sure what word to use, whether it's amusing, frustrating, angering, to hear native English people like yourself, and again, that's the only phrase I can... And...
Oh, we've lost you a bit. Listen, Amardeep, we just lost your connection there. I really wanted to hear that. We got to a point that I was like, what? I really wanted to know. So what we're going to do is the top of the hour, and that means we've got what they call a hard out in the industry. So we have to take an advert break, whether we like it or not. But how about we keep you on the line, and when we come back on the other side, let me look at my run order. Hopefully we'll be able to continue. Yes, we can. We'll continue our conversation with you just after that. So don't go anywhere, Amardeep, and don't you go anywhere either. Back in a moment.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. Good. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working-class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh, yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. There you go. I think we're going straight back to Amardeep. And we got Luke at the control panel today, with Tech Up looming over him. We didn't have one of our little jingles. But anyway, let's get straight back to the conversation we're having with Amardeep, because it was getting to the sort of crux of the matter, and I was really excited to hear what he had to say. Amardeep, thank you so much for your patience and waiting for us to get our commercials out of the way. Do you remember where you got to of your what you were saying to us?
I was searching for the right word, and I still haven't got it, but it's something along the lines of amusement, anger, frustration, in listening to yourselves and your callers and just the general vibe in the country at the moment, there seems to be a feeling that the indigenous British, the white British, feel somehow that they are second-class citizens or treated differently or treated worse than immigrants or people like myself, born in Britain but not white. And the reason why I use that phrase, amusing, frustrating, angry, is how do you think we have been feeling for the last 40 years when we've been subjected to racism? And it's like that doesn't seem to have the same effect as when the indigenous population feels like. And it's almost quite funny, as in, we've been feeling these things for the last 40 years in this country, if not longer. And there's never been a real national debate about it, or no one really cares. Racism has got worse as I've got older in this country. And yet, when there seems to be some suggestion that people from a foreign country are coming here and committing crimes, then it's like it's the end of the world and we're not being listened to and it's our country. And it's like I said, it's a mixture of amusement and anger and almost a how dare you.
Yeah,
feel like that.
It's interesting. Do you think part of the problem, Amadeep, is that, you know, they're historically... Look, this is my thinking, OK?
Yeah.
I think that actually it's almost part of the human condition that people have prejudices. It would be great if that didn't exist, but I think there's a biological functioning in us that is very... In the same way that we get hungry and find people attractive, suspicion of the other or wanting to stick with your own tribe is part of the human condition. I say that as someone who, when I went to live over in China, for example, my friendship group was entirely British expats. Less so, that was more of a language thing, less so when I lived in India, but and almost not at all when I lived in Kenya. But I understand why humans, you know, convene together. And then other people find that suspicious and so on and so forth. It's going to be very difficult, I think, to stamp that out of people. But I think that one of the things that's gone wrong in society is with the whole anti-racism movement, it's encouraged everybody to look at everything through the prism of race. And almost the best thing we can do is just let people be people. And I think social media has driven us to extremes. I think things like working from home doesn't help. You know, I come into an office and, you know, have a chat at the coffee machine with people from all different backgrounds. And so my daily life is filled with people whose parents might have come from India or South Africa or Nigeria or, you know, wherever, you know, Albania, because that's what it's like working in a big international corporation. And I think that there's been an over-focus, and I think what people are sort of railing against now, and the disgusting incident with poor Henry Novak, where the police just didn't believe he had been stabbed, that in some respects we've been pushing so hard to try and sort of cure something that itself, I kind of feel in the 80s, 90s, noughties, was beginning to just sort of start working itself out a little bit. And that we focus so much on all of this. There's been so much push on whatever you do. If someone accuses you of racism, it's the worst possible thing. That it's actually having a negative impact now. That Martin Luther King didn't stand up and say, what we need to do is offer jobs to only ethnic minorities to try and equal outcomes. What we need to do is view everything through the prism of race. What he said was, we must not judge people by the colour of their skin. In fact, what he was pushing was colour blindness. And I sort of feel that there's been such a huge promotion of the anti-racism movement that it actually has had the opposite effect. Does that make sense? Do you think I'm onto something?
Slightly, but again, you've got to think, well, why has there been all this anti-racism? Because there's been a lot of racism in this country. Would you not agree?
Well, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you, Amadeep. I couldn't possibly say because I'm a white person. So and I know I sound like the left now, but I've not had racist attacks against me in Britain because I'm a white Brit. But I'll tell you one thing. Amadeep. When I was in my 20s, in 2008, my other half, spitting image of Barack Obama he was, and we lived in Newcastle together, and we walked down the streets, and I never saw any issues. You know, we were dating, nothing, not a problem. We went to Barcelona together on a holiday, and I remember we got off got off the plane, trying to get a taxi to take us into town, and, you know, standing there putting our hand out. This is like the early noughties before Uber. Not a single car stopped, nothing. They kept going by, and then they kept sort of pulling up the road and letting other people in. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then at one point, he went to, it's boiling hot, and he went to one of the little stands nearby to buy bottles of Coke. And as soon as he walked away, and I sort of put my hand out, a taxi came. And I was like, oh, brilliant, finally, we got one. Got in the car. As soon as he came back with the bottle, so I said, yeah, my boyfriend's coming to join us. As soon as he comes and joins us in the back of the car, the driver starts making every single excuse. We can't take you to that hotel. It's too far away. Get out, get out, get out. And I suddenly thought, blimmin' heck, that was racism. And, you know, we were in a relationship together for almost 4 years, walked around the streets of Newcastle, and just, I literally never, and he said to me, because he was French, and he said, you know, the UK is so much more different to Paris, so much more different to France when it comes to this stuff. So that's the only, let's say, evidence, empirical evidence in my own world that I have, that I think, I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Britain, but in some respects, I think that out of all the countries in the world, we were probably one of the better ones when it came to integration.
Alex, do you know what my answer to that is? Because I hear that so many times.
Yeah.
This country's better than other countries when it comes to racism. Should I be thankful for that? As in, should I be thankful that people are decent and normal like they would be? Is that a favour you're doing to me?
I'm not saying you should be thankful, but what I'm saying is human beings are very difficult people.
Why compare it with another country? You're doing what normal human beings should do. I shouldn't thank you for that.
Well, I'm not asking for your thanks. I was just giving you an example of.
Why bring it up? Why bring it up if it's not comparing that the British are more tolerant? You're supposed to be tolerant. You're human beings.
But I know. But I think it's a very relevant point to make.
So that's what I mean. When people say to me, "But you've got it good in Britain. We're not as racist." It's like, should I be thanking you for a basic right?
No, I didn't ask you to thank me. I was making. You asked me about whether I'd experienced racism in this country, and I answered that question. And I gave you an example of where I've actually seen it take place. That's all I did.
But then you made the comparison that your boyfriend said, "Oh, that's much better than."
Well, he did. Sorry to give you a bit of historical information that I've seen and heard with my own eyes. You asked me the question whether I'd seen it.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is my observation in that is nobody should have to thank their fellow man.
Look, I could stand here. Amadeep, we can all play this game. And I could sit here and bemoan how sexist this country is compared to other countries. You know, how old-fashioned some of our attitudes towards women are. How actually it'd be much better if I lived in somewhere like Spain where you can, you know, slap a man round the face and be feisty. You know, I'm not doing that because I think playing these games just doesn't help anyone. What I'm saying is we need to just rub along, stop playing identity politics, because that is the route to madness. That's all I'm saying. Amadeep, thank you so much for your call. Why do we always have to end up in, you know, we can't just have a conversation without someone having to win a point? I don't get it.
No, I mean, I don't know Amadeep. I don't know where he was from. I mean, within the UK.
West Mids is what we know.
West Mids. So my guess is he lives in a community surrounded by people of his own culture, his own skin colour. And that culture could be Asian, Pakistani, British, Indian, British. It felt to me like he's going through something at the moment that's giving him an axe to grind, in the sense that white people all of a sudden are starting to see the disbenefits of anti-racism and are feeling racism. And I think that some brown and black people, forgive me for saying this, although I don't mind if you do or don't, are feeling left out by that now. Yeah. It's like, OK, well, we never got our problems fixed, so how on earth can we tackle your problems?
Yeah, and I understand that.
And I do understand that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that if we can't keep playing whataboutery all over the place.
That's my point.
Because we're not going to fix anything. Yeah. You made a perfectly valid point, which was your own experience of not being felt racist against until you were with a black boyfriend. So that's a perfectly valid experience. We should be able to talk about that. That doesn't take anything away from Amadeep. But Amadeep decided at that point that he was going to say, but why did you make the comparison? Well, the comparison was a favourable one. We're not saying that it doesn't exist. We're just saying it's much better.
Yeah, and from my own experience, it has been. And also, like, we were talking about this in the break, weren't we? Which is that the right-wing movement of the UK say, what is happening to white farmers in South Africa is really terrible situation. It is. And they are white South Africans. And yet some of the same people were then saying about British Asians, they're not British. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You know, and also I think we've got to, it's a bit like Avenue Q with that song, everyone's a little bit racist. There is this, I'm sorry, part of the human condition is prejudice. It just is. And I think we need to sort of almost understand that. We need to be a bit tougher ourselves in the same way that women have to be tougher and not, you know, cry every second that they don't, you know, get treated differently from men and all the rest of it. We just got to be realistic about humans and stop identity politics. It's a route to madness.
You don't get success without discrimination, which is something that people find very difficult to stomach. But it's a matter of fact. Whatever you want to do, you have to. And I'm not saying you have to discriminate against skin colour. No. Far from it. In fact, I think skin colour and sexuality are the least interesting things about human beings. I mean, we get it rammed down our throat the whole time, but it's entirely uninteresting most of the time. Culture's very interesting. The way people think and behave in their politics are very interesting, but skin colour is not interesting at all. The trouble is, what anti-racism has done is put people in silos. It's made them feel empowered. It's made them feel discriminated against. But discrimination, whether it be in engineering, electronics, sports, whatever it is part and parcel of success. You have to choose the survival of whatever the fittest might be.
Exactly. No, exactly. Same with, you know, kids who get A grades at school and all the rest of it. It's sort of rooted in the system. Right. We've overrun our time. We'd better crack on because we've been keeping the brilliant Matthew Bryser waiting, former White House official. Thank you for your patience, Matthew. We sort of slipped a bit on timings there. I hope we haven't kept you against your will. Let us talk, first of all, because today is the Donald's 80th birthday. We're not really looking at much of that going on in the UK or being reported in the UK, but my understanding is there's going to be sort of like ultimate fights in the gardens of the White House. I don't know, like all sorts of madness. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's like a gladiatorial combat. So the UFC it's invested $60 million in building this big structure called the Claw on the south lawn of the White House. So right next to the White House mansion, between the Washington Monument and the White House itself. And it's President Trump claims, well, it's really got nothing to do with my birthday. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States, independence. Sorry, with all due respect, from the wonderful England. But of course, it's all about Donald Trump. Everything is, and by and large, I think support or opposition to it's breaking down along party lines, and Trump's base loves it. I mean, they love the UFC. Dana White, who is the CEO of the Ultimate Fighting Championship company, is the one who introduced President Trump at the Republican convention when Trump was nominated for president again. So it's going to Trump's base loves this. They're very excited about it.
Yeah, we'd never have something like we had the King's birthday yesterday, so we had Trooping of the Colour, not Ultimate Fights.
I saw.
It's like that, if anything, is the sort of comparison of Britain and America right there. Let's talk about matters in the Middle East. I've just seen some breaking news that Israel has resumed bombing Beirut. We keep hearing that an Iran deal could be signed within hours, but every time that's about to happen, it seems to me, someone somewhere lobs some sort of projectile at someone else, whether it's the IRGC chucking drones at ships or throwing a few bombs at a neighbouring nation, or whether it's Israel attacking Lebanon. I mean, it's this constantly the boy who cries wolf when it comes to there's going to be a deal, there's going to be a deal, because I've heard it too many times now, Matthew.
Me too, Alex. Well, it has become a bit of the boy who cries wolf. On the other hand, it's also President Trump trying to put pressure on the parties, both on Israel and on Iran, by saying, we're right there, we want peace. And as you're saying, there are these saboteurs out there who are trying to derail things. I think you're absolutely right that in Tehran, there are those in now a fractured leadership that is no longer unified like it used to be after, a wave and a half of Iran's leaders were killed. Now it's difficult, it seems, to reach a consensus. And similarly and clearly in Israel, Netanyahu wants to keep the war going as long as possible, not only sort of cynically because he wants to avoid his corruption trial or because he's got an election coming up soon. I mean, both of those are true, but also because from his perspective, he wanted the U.S. to wage this war against Iran to meet some strategic objectives of Israel. Number one, ending Iran's nuclear program. Maybe that'll still happen. Number two, eliminating Iran's ballistic missile program. Whether that's happened or not is unclear. A lot of it's been destroyed. Number three is setting back Iran's military forces in general. But and support for Hezbollah, especially. But number 4 is moving Hezbollah way north into Lebanon, beyond the Litani River, to keep northern Israel safe. And really, none of those things yet have been achieved. So from Netanyahu's perspective, if there's peace now, it's actually a strategic defeat for Israel.
We've got here the summary of what is allegedly in this draft agreement, which involves Iran immediately reopening the Strait of Hormuz to all commercial vessels, the US lifting the naval blockade on Iranian ports, the US not imposing new sanctions on Iran until a final deal is reached. But I think most significantly, Tehran agrees to maintain the nuclear status quo until a final deal is reached, including not enriching uranium and not expanding nuclear facilities, agreeing it will neither produce nor acquire nuclear weapons, and Tehran will dilute the highly enriched uranium stockpile. I mean, this all sounds extremely good. There'll be people out there who say, well, you know, we had the JCPOA, but there'll be other people, and I put myself in the other people category here, who said, well, we did, but Iran wasn't following it anyway. They were abusing it and they can't be trusted. And at least we're in a situation now where we know that materially, at least, some of their armaments and some of their facilities have been incapacitated. If this deal gets over the line, do you think we're essentially, therefore, in a better position than we were before? Has it been worth it?
I'm not sure, because it's not clear what exactly Iran means. So the JCPOA had its flaws, and I was critical of it as well, though I embraced the basic concept of having something in place. But it failed to address Iran's ballistic missile program, as I was mentioning before, and it failed to address Iran's support for Hezbollah and for Hamas and the Houthis, so Iran's partners or proxies around the Middle East. That was a shortcoming, but the Obama administration would say, well, that's the best we could get under those conditions. So the Trump administration said, let's try for something better. Fair enough. And the Trump administration thought that by using military force, the U.S. could degrade Iran's military and nuclear capabilities enough to get a better deal. And it turned out that isn't the case. Iran didn't buckle. So, you know, the way negotiations often work in the real world is both sides think they're stronger than they are. They resort to using military force. They get to the edge of the abyss and they say, uh-oh, if we keep this going, it's going to get really ugly. And I think that's where we are now. But I think what we're going to get back to, yeah, is something akin to the JCPOA. But, you know, Trump gave it a go and it didn't go as far as he wished.
Yeah, and I think there's probably international political pressure and domestic political pressure that might have stymied his ambitions somewhat. But there you have it. It's never going to be fixed in a year, was it? The problem of Iran. Maybe never fixed in a lifetime. Matthew, thank you ever so much. It's always a great privilege to have you on. It's funny. So I was always a huge critic of the JCPOA because what you saw happening was a lot of European nations, including us, but primarily Germany, was selling all sorts of technologies to Iran. They said, oh, we can trade. Great. Let's make some money. Germany, especially, gave loads of nuclear technology to Iran. And for me, it was this sort of stupid Western approach of you can negotiate with a terrorist. You can get round the table, you can talk money, you can talk contracts, and way, that's all going to work. And there were elements in America who just went, this is playing with fire, because the whole time they're pretending to go along with this, they're making nuclear weapons that could reach Western Europe. And I'm certainly of the school of thought that I would have preferred if Trump could have gone further, done more. And I think that he was massively held back by whining Winnies in Europe. Oh, no.
Look, it's so interesting. It's like a trifecta. You've got the hubris of the West, which is liberally progressive and believes that that's better than anything else. You've got Iran and the West, who are culturally so different that somebody like Iran could easily take advantage of that. Because it's, if you stand outside with a wide-angle lens and looking at the West, it's so easy to see where the loopholes to take advantage
easy
of that.
Easy to mug us off.
Absolutely easy to mug us off. And their ideology, which states life itself is not the valuable thing. Spirit and their belief in the ideology and their belief in their God outweighs anything else. So, of course, and of course capitalism. So we put all of those things together and you've got the West selling to Iran and then the West attacking Iran for using the technology that the West has sold them. And it's amazing that nobody of any real intelligence has really looked at this and gone, this is mental. Other than, of course, and people will hate this, Lord Donald of Trump, who's come in now and gone, this is mental.
Yeah.
Because, not just because he thinks so, but because Obama told him it, Hillary Clinton told him it, Bill What's-His-Face told him it, Bill Clinton, don't know why I went Bill What's-His-Face.
Bill What's-His-Face, Biden, don't forget him.
Yeah, but they all said exactly the same thing. The only person to act on it was Donald Trump. Unfortunately, it's not panning out quite as any of us would like because of all the aforementioned things.
Because it's Donald Trump.
Well, and because it's Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, if it was Barack Obama who said, we got to strike the Iranian missile sites, we've got to render them incapable of making a nuclear weapon, we're going to send in the greatest technology, we're going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, there's going to be some pain, guys, but we've got to do it. You know, Iran can't be trusted anymore. They would literally be giving him a second Nobel Peace Prize.
They'd be lapping it up.
They'd be loving it.
Like a calf on a teat.
Oh, they'd be front page of every newspaper, beaming Obama, you know, sanctified and beatified. And because it's Donald Trump, it's like, well, bad.
Well, because of the rhetoric, again, it goes back to when we were talking about Douglas Murray versus Tommy Robinson, the guy from the Council of State versus the educated guy who's eloquent and is able to articulate themselves in a perfect way to get everybody on board. Donald Trump goes at it with a sledgehammer. He says... He just says no.
We're going to bomb you.
Exactly, yeah. And it's unpalatable for a lot of people. And when it comes to Sunday... If you look back, there is always a statement from Trump on this, because Sunday's statements influence Monday's markets. And that's exactly what's going on here. I don't think there will be a deal today.
No, we just don't want that oil price to go mad.
It calms the horses.
Yeah.
And Israel are doing their own thing, and they're back in bombing Lebanon, and people don't understand why they're doing that. And Hezbollah's a proxy of Iran. It's an absolute mess. So somebody like Donald Trump probably has to come out each Sunday and say exactly this. Watch out for a Friday statement. Friday's fine. No markets on Saturday, no markets on Sunday. What they're saying on Friday is roundabout where the truth is.
I love this. You've got the sort of, you know, the whole global press hack right there in your back pocket.
I'm a big time guy. I know what I'm talking about.
Card. Look, I'm mad. Andrew, I must be losing the ability to speak because Andrew from Salisbury's message saying, what's an unclear weapon? Did I say an unclear weapon instead of a nuclear weapon? I just think anagrams in my mind.
It's just because Andrew doesn't know. It doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Well, I think it's unclear. Basically. Right, OK, we're going to be taking a short break now. After the break, let's do some calls, shall we?
Why not?
Yeah, that's you. Whatever you want to talk about. All the things we've been talking about today. We've had some spicy chit-chats, haven't we? It's been getting really sort of chewy.
Yeah, get them involved.
Chewy
It's great
business.
though, isn't it?
It is good.
Where else does this happen? Nowhere else.
Nowhere. That's why we call ourselves Talk.
Exactly.
Because that's what it's about. So 03444 999 1000 is the number to dial. Break.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. We didn't get a jingle this time. Would you care to do one?
Ta-da-ta-da-ta-ta. Alex and Paul, no mention of our surname, because it's slightly rude.
Hey! There we go. Not as good as my 0344499 break, and I forgot to do the 1000. I just didn't even get the number right.
They know the number.
Or whatever it was, yeah. But please, we still like the jingles. It's probably a bit late in the day now, but we can, you know...
Well, we can use them next week.
So, yeah, exactly. We can stash them up and get them out, give them their debuts on next week's show. I love it. This happens on a Saturday. It's not just you, by the way. Barnsley and I do this.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
I know.
We do talk about
I like you to
no
feel that
issue.
I like you to feel that you're special. I don't have another man.
You do though.
On a Saturday, I haven't got my Saturday man and a Sunday man. By myself on Friday, you know. Right. Well, talking about men joining the programme, let's welcome aboard David in the greatest county of them all, Gloucestershire. How you doing, David?
I'm all right, thank you, Alex. How are you?
Oh, there you go, the voice of my peoples. I'm very well, Barbara. I'm very well.
Well, you were talking earlier about democracy.
Yeah.
Basically, I did say that democracy died the day the Brexit vote happened because they went into Parliament and did nothing about it and did everything they could to reverse it.
Yeah.
And that was the day democracy died.
That actually was. I think that was the final nail in the coffin. It had been sort of circling the plug hole for a while, but that was basically getting out. That was the Liverpool pathway.
Yeah, and I mean, Starmer's got this thing now. He's got a mandate. Well, he hasn't got a mandate because his mandate was to stop the gangs. Failed. Grow the economy. Failed. And he's also said he's going to, waspy women. Failed. Farmers. He was going to leave farmers alone. Failed. What was his? Oh, that's right. Country over party. Well, Mandelson, etc., etc. Failed.
But this has been going on in politics for so long now. Once upon a time, in a way, I kind of preferred when it was a two-party system because that was more thought out on politics. It was like, you have a pop at your enemy, but there was right and there was left, and they had to make their case. Now, most of politics is farting around, faction fighting, having coups, backing your enemy because your enemy's enemy is your friend, just playing all these games. And I feel like in the process, they've completely forgotten about us. They don't care about us. They're so consumed by the game. They love the game. And I'm just fed up with it.
Well, PMQs, it's just an absolute joke now. It's just a farce.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, since I've become the position that I am, I'm able to watch it a lot more, and you just sort of watch it and you think, well, what is the point? Kenny asks a sort of one question, he doesn't answer it at all, but she doesn't seem to come back at him at all.
It's all scripted as well. You see them, their aides are sat there, come up with some really clever lines they could do, like, so, Prime Minister, you said on July, blah, blah, ha-ha, what do you think about that? Ha-ha, and he'll be like, well, blah, 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 you did this, and all the other people go, and it's just like, what is this? It's like some sort of odd, I don't even know what it is. It's not a football match. It's not a debating society. It's kind of like whose line is it anyway, but really boring. I don't know. It's very odd.
She doesn't nail him to the coffin ever because, he came on the other day and he said, oh, the country's growing and the NHS this to down and blah, blah, blah. And her first line should have been, are you putting that onto the record? Is that the record? Because... and then he'd have had to have gone,
But that's what I mean. They just read from their scripts. They've got aides who sit there coming up, you can picture them right now go, ha, ha, I've got a really good one, ha, say this, ha. And they come up with their lines and they read their lines like some rubbish, play. And you're right, they never... And they're not listening to the answer to then sort of, drive the nail in deeper. They're not saying but... Prime Minister, you've not answered my question. Let's go back and this is what you said. It's not a conversation. It's just a sort of performance. It's like Amdram.
Well, this was the thing, and not being able to call somebody a liar, that has got to just stop now. Because if somebody is in Parliament, telling Parliament is supposed to be looking after, to represent the people. And I'm sorry, but if somebody is in that Parliament lying, blatantly lying, the opposition should have the right to say, you are a liar. And
Just
that
interesting.
Is a fact.
Yeah.
That is a fact, and that is going to change. And I think, do you know what? If Reform or whoever gets in next, they have got to go in there and they have got to change Parliament. I don't care what a million years of da-da-da is, or 1,000 years, or whatever. We have got to start changing the rules and bringing it up to date. And if there's a politician that goes into Parliament and blatantly lies, they have got to be called out and said, you are a liar.
I feel like David should be the Speaker of the House of Commons. I'd love that. Can you imagine? David, I've got to ask, because I'm from the hood. Where are you in Gloucestershire?
I'm just on the edge. I'm at Newnham.
I know Newnham Forest Way, yeah. Newnham's smart.
Yeah, we're right on the edge of the Forest of Dean.
All right, posh forest you are then. Very floody around in those parts, though. But beautiful part of the world. Great to have your call, David, and enjoy the wonderful sunshine in God's own county. But it is true that whole, that's unparliamentary language. I mean, I understand why that provision's in place, because the thing is, lying to Parliament is basically a sackable offence. So banding about the term going, you're lying, it sort of weakens that as a rule if everyone gets accused of lying. But there is also a sense that when you sort of know that they're not abjectly lying, but you know they're using... I mean, Starmer's the best at this because he is a blimmin' barrister.
Well, he's obfuscating all...
Obfuscating, circumlocuting...
Circumlocuting? Politique.
Baby, you said... Politique. You said obfuscating. I had to go one better.
That was two better, I think.
This is... Can you go higher?
No, I can't.
Obfuscating,
That's why I went
circumlocuting. Politique. I forgot politique. I love that. I'm glad you brought that one up. I don't really like to come back from that.
No, I'm sorry.
Should we just...
I'm sorry, we need to get back.
Should we just...
But David, by the way, David's call was fantastic because this is someone who you just feel like maybe wasn't as engaged with politics during his working life. It sounded like he was retired. I assume that's what I inferred from his situation. But it's wonderful to see so many more people engaged in politics now, not just because David's in his retirement, but because the country is in such a perilous state that people are investing their time in it now and thinking, what can we do to solve it? And they're noticing things that seem absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, no, everyone's into politics now, and in a way that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But also it's a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
Because everyone's sort of an armchair critic, and it's like, oh God, we're all blooming politicians. Politique. Right, on that note, let us take a short break, because on the other side we're going to be chatting with Mike Neville, former Met Police DCI. We're going to be talking about it's got a whole load of policey related. Isn't there always a whole load of policey related stuff that's going to grind them gears? So get your coffee on Babber, or a nice pot of tea, get a nice biscuit, and we'll see you after this.
Lovely.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, stop it. If you could have merch with the word politique on it, what would you have? I actually do want a sort of baby pink trucker's hat with the word politique written in, like, italic sequins.
I can see you in a hand muff.
A politique hand muff? How would you write on a hand muff? Because they're all furry.
I don't know.
How do you actually get the writing on that?
You just would.
I think...
That doesn't work, does it? You just would. That's my policy. How are we going to do that, Paul? We just will.
I'm trying to think what would work on you, because T-shirt's been done. Politique.
Like an armband, like Captain's armband. I don't know.
Maybe like a sort of politique pocket watch.
Yeah. I think maybe a double-breasted suit jacket would be like a mog.
A waistcoat, or as Rafe Hadel Mancu would say, waistcoat.
Westcott. They do. The posher you are, the Westcott you are.
I'd never heard it until Rafe Hadel-Banku, who's the poshest man on ever.
Politique.
Politique. Actually, do you know, I actually feel like I need to message Rafe Hadel-Banku and say, dear Rafe, if you could have some sort of emblazoned merchandise saying politique, what would it be? And I bet you he'd reply, it'd be, oh, well, I think it should be like an embroidered silk-lined waistcoat. With braces.
Why not?
Politic braces.
Good old Rafe.
I love Rafe. Anyway, I hope he's listening and feeling the love. He probably isn't, but hopefully someone's listening who knows him and messages him. Because if I message him and tell him about this conversation, he's just going to be like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Anyway, politique. Let us speak now to the brilliant Mike Neville. I haven't organised my papers for a while. I've got to find all my stories. Mike, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, Alex. I'm in the middle of a country park with my wife and my grandchildren's christening, so bear with me the signal.
I could hear that right from the outset, and that gives me shivers down my spine. When you're in the business of live broadcasting and you hear a crackle from the offset, it doesn't give you reassurance. But anyway, here we go. Let us begin with this. So, a Tory MP has asked the Home Office why an individual called Syed Hussein Mackay, who ran Spiritual Warrior Camp in the Peak District, was allowed back to the UK. I've seen a photo of this gentleman. He mourned members of Hezbollah. He's a radical Islamist cleric. But he actually ran, this is very reassuring, a spiritual warrior training camp of religious education outdoor activities in the Peak District. One of the camps was held at the start of this month. Let's be real, that's a jihadist training camp, isn't it? Why is this happening?
Well, it's insane, isn't it? The man has been banned from Australia. And when you look at the people who have been banned from the UK recently, who could be said to have centre-right politics, like Eva van Dalenbroek, you know, and Polish MEPs, Belgium MPs banned from this country, you have to question why this man has been allowed in here. As you say, he's run these jihadi training camps. Let's give them the proper name, what they are.
I mean, this is the thing. Did you know there's about 500 odd of them or something in the UK? Like, there's loads of these. It's amazing. There's so many, like, yeah, lads, let's get fit. Let's lift some weights and pray to Allah and learn to shoot things. And I'm like, whoa, really? But
Olympic wrestling as well, Alex, apparently. That's what they do there. So, in the name of Allah, it's very worrying.
Yeah, no, there is. There is this sort of whole movement of, like, the Islamist beefcake movement. It's a thing. It's a definite thing.
Sounds camp.
Well, probably is. Anyway, let's talk now about this story, which is a poor blimmin' convenience store worker by the name of Eileen Cox has been sacked. She works in Bootle, and there was this thief, he's well known in Merseyside. She's been nicking from her shop for years. And basically, she tried to nick a pack of bacon. And Eileen grabbed the sleeve of this person's coat. In the scuffle, she banged the metal stand. No one was injured in the incident, but she tried to basically stop this woman nicking the produce, and she's been sacked.
Well, we saw it, didn't we, in Waitrose at Clapham Junction. We saw it in Morrison's in Walsall. It just sends a dreadful message. One, the thieves know they can get away with it, that no one's going to challenge them. And it also sends an awful message. I mean, Eileen is probably any of her sort of aunts or maybe her sisters who's just trying to do their work, who's working hard, and has now been sacked. And I just think this one stop, the shop involved here, that it just sends a terrible message. I go to a local post office, and the ladies there tell me that people just steal, they walk out, and what you have is that people are stealing more than they earn in a 10-hour shift. And it comes to that point, as we discussed before, where when obeying the rules is the stupid option, the society is going in a really bad place. So I hope Eileen finds a job, and I hope somebody employs her soon for her dedication.
Well, I hope so too, because she's clearly doing what she thought was her job, which is stopping people nicking from the shop, for crying out loud. Let's talk about blimmin' Zach Polanski, if we must, but I suppose we should. He's been blasted as a disgrace because typically he backed Palestine action thugs who have been jailed for that raid, saying it was gut-wrenching to see these people convicted. They caused £1.2 million of damage. They nicked an old prison truck to use as a ram raid, and let us not forget that they smashed a policewoman's spine in with a sledgehammer. And there's Zach Polanski going, it's so sad, they're just freedom fighters. I mean, when are we going to get real about that man?
Well, it's insane, isn't it? I mean, the sergeant concerned, Kate Evans, was actually on the floor when this Samuel Corner smashed her in the back with the sledgehammer. That's how brave this man is. And what you have, he's been sentenced to 7 years, 8 months. But when you look at that, that seems like that's a short sentence for smashing somebody's spine.
Yeah.
But of course, when you take away the 60%, because they only do 40%, that's 3 years in prison. But this is surprising, really, for the Greens, because they recently had a Scottish candidate who wanted to abolish all prisons. So, I mean, voting Green is voting lunacy to me. I find it incredible that anybody would even consider voting for these people.
You're bang on about that. But do you know what I've noticed, though? Like, the establishment media, when Zach Polanski first appeared, were tripping over themselves to have him on the programme, you know, showing him in heaven like, doing his little dance, being all wonderful. And isn't he kind? Isn't this modern and progressive? And the young gay people, they all love him. And all of a sudden, they seem to have reverse ferreted out of that, haven't they? They don't seem to platform him as much as they used to because they've realised he's mad.
Well, yeah, and he don't pay his council tax either, which is another issue, you know.
Right, that is very, very
That's for the little people. That's for the little people.
Yeah, no, it is indeed. It is indeed. OK, so finally, let's talk about this other side. I was rifling through my papers trying to find it because I don't have a Wikipedia brain and I can't find it, so I'll just
This is the Harrow one, Alex, is it?
Yes, Harrow, thank you. That is where it was. So these are the council enforcement officers, which I don't... And these are weird jobs, right? I don't know why we've got people walking around with tabards on saying, oh, look, you know, dropped an apple core on the floor, you're going to be fined 200 quid. You know, I'm all for, like, keeping the streets clean and safe and there being order and discipline, but it seems to me this is jobs worths. And these ones started threatening a member of the public, we're going to take you down this alleyway, we're going to beat you up, blah, 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 blah. And they turned off their little body cams. What's all this about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, these are called. These are people employed by the council to sort of raise money, and it's always follow the money. Their official name is PSPO, Public Space Protection Orders, and this is where they can give you £100 or a £200 fine for dropping a cigarette butt or spitting if they allege you spat in the public, all sorts of nonsense. But what's worrying, Alex, is that the companies can get up to 50% of the fine. So there's a real, target one for the company to do this, to issue nonsense fines, because most people, they just like pay up, because it'll come with a letter saying, oh, if you pay it now, it'll be 75 quid. If you don't pay, it'll be 300 notes, that sort of threat. And also the councils use this to fill their coffers, because we've seen several councils, haven't we, like Croydon and the like, go bankrupt. So these are people who are not really there to help us on the street and keep it nice. They're a money-making racket, I suggest.
It's awful. It needs to go. It's got to stop now. Mike, thank you ever so much. Go and enjoy the rest of your time with your family on this sunny weekend. I hate stuff like this because do you know what I feel that goes on now? I literally am a law-abiding person. I walk about my life trying not to do things like speed or end up in the yellow box or whatever it may be. Make sure that, I can actually close a little Velcro, seal on my cardboard recycling because they won't pick it up if I don't. You spend, as a normal law-abiding citizen, it is an absolute boondoggle constantly trying to not get a fine. And then you have someone like driving through London just like smoking a massive crack pipe out the window, half on the pavement with no number plate, and you're just like, nothing's going to be done about that.
It's like there's been a cultural shift, and maybe an alien culture that seems to have embedded itself within our beautiful British culture. Alex, look, these are the things that bond our society together, irrespective of your colour of your skin or, what genitals you have. The thing that bonds us together is the way that we behave. And one thing has to be maintained. That's if you wish to live within our society, which we spent 1,000 years building, you need to behave a certain way. We haven't made this up. It's been passed down after generation to help keep these cohesive societies together. When it's flooded with an alien culture, people who think differently, who are not trained, who have not been told the way we live, then you end up with this. This is exactly what you end up with.
Or they come from a culture where, if you're in the police or something like that, that's just a meal ticket. You pull someone over and instead of doing anything, the first thing, you do is you get your money out of the glove box. You just think, here you go, have your bribe then.
A couple of things come to mind when I hear all these stories. this is only about 2010, a co-op that used to be local to where I live, that used to be run by this little old lady who was fearsome. I remember her tripping up somebody who was trying to run out the co-op with a load of beers. This was, by the way, as far as I could tell, was a white British man trying to run out this co-op about 15, 20 years ago. And she tripped him up, he fell over, he hurt himself, she got the beer back, she gave him a couple of choice words and he ran off down the road. And I just remember thinking, wow, you know, I wish he didn't have to do that. That's quite dangerous. But this little old lady basically was saying, no, I'm protecting the co-op. I'm protecting. This is my zone, and these are our rules. If you can't afford the beer, don't come in here. And which is one of my politique. If you can't afford the beer, don't come in here. Okay.
That should be a Mayfair private members club.
Exactly. Well, I can't afford the beer, so I don't go in. But look, I think this is a very good standard to live by. You talked about, you know, putting litter in the bins and not going in the yellow box. Yeah, it's an incredibly...
It's all this stuff that they go for the low-hanging fruit to get the cash money, don't they? Like 20-mile-per-hour zones, I eliminate them. I hate them.
It's madness,
because
by the way.
It's impossible to stay at 20 miles per hour. You're going to get... I mean, look, if they want to use it a cash cow, crack on. Well, no, don't crack on, because that's bad. But it's the fact that you get points on your licence for, I don't know, driving normally. And then you've got people who literally, the amount of cars you've got on the road now with false plates, or these, you know, the scooters that pretend they're delivering blood. You know, it's like, oh, we're here for blood transfusion with L plates on.
Are they pretending to do that now?
Yeah, they'll do all that sort of mad stuff, like kid transplant services. It's just drug runners. And you know that nothing happens to these people, that you've actually got, you know, shops on the high street just flagrantly laundering money. But you, oh, well, if you happen to, I don't know, accidentally put a bit of paper in with your cardboard recycling, that's you being fined.
And by the way, had the gentleman who recorded the Harrow enforcement officers not been recording, we'd never known about that. The accusation of that would have been dismissed as racist.
Right, yeah, it would have been.
It would have been gone, right? But what we got to see on full display was how these people behaved when they didn't think they were being recorded.
Like a threatening gang. Give us your money. We've got to make our money.
Well, come over here. Come down the alley. We'll teach you.
We'll beat you up if you don't pay us.
This is what time it is. It's retribution time. And by the way, I thought one of the most sinister things about that is we'll call the police in and they'll be on our side. They'll have you.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Given what happened with Henry Novak and what's going on in the police force, thanks to the police training college...
They know, that's the thing. They
but
know
even
they
if
can
that
play that
wasn't
card.
true, they knew, those people knew that if they said that, that would put the fear of God into that person.
Yeah.
Luckily, that person was kind of an activist-type person who wasn't going to have any truck with that anyway. And we got to see it for what it's worth. And Harrow, of course, have dismissed these two, which they had no choice. But neither of us would have been surprised if we were told they were being suspended and then 2 weeks' time they're back in position. But listening to what Mike had to say, they love Mike, you know, calling in from his granddaughter's christening or whatever that was.
From the middle of a forest.
Absolutely fantastic.
Probably halfway down a zip line or something.
But, you know, to tell us the things that he knows. And, you know, Mike is from a bygone time of policing, unfortunately.
Yeah, bygone time of everything.
Yeah.
Politique.
Bless him, politique. Can't afford the beer, don't come here.
Don't whine if you can't afford the wine. That wasn't good. Didn't work as well. No, I've got to stop. We're going to waste the rest of the show just playing that game. OK, we're going to take a short break now. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be wasting the rest of the show doing something else, and it'll be fun. See you in a moment.
we've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Phillips and Cox on Talk, the home of common sense. Give them a call now on 0344 499 1000.
Politique. We're just discussing how that would be spelt.
Yeah, QUE.
It's QUE.
With a what they call blah blah. What do you put over? What do you put over
an
the
umlaut?
Yeah, an umlaut.
On
Yeah,
the
which
E.
is German.
But that wouldn't even make sense phonetically.
Would it not?
No. So the umlaut takes the place of things like take the place of a missing letter normally.
Right.
It's like the little hat in. So did you know pâté? Here's an example. Do you want a bit of French grammar? Who doesn't? You know the little hat on the letter A in pâté?
Yeah.
The hat means that there's no S because it's paste. But they take the paste out and they put the hat on the A.
Did not know that.
And it's pâté.
Did not know that.
So hotel has a hat on in French, hôtel, because the S has gone. Hostel, hôtel, hat, no S.
Politique.
Politique. Grammatique. Let's speak to Tim, who's in Kent. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Alex. I've never phoned you before, but a bit of flattery. You are my favourite presenter.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you phoned up.
You're both entertaining and very informative and very knowledgeable.
Oh, well, thank you. I do try.
Flattery over.
But
I just want to. Oh, by the way, I live in Kent. I live in a little village called Kingsdown, which is nestled in the White Cliffs between Dover and Deal.
Ooh, nice.
I love my part of Kent as much as you love your Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm phoning is your topic about immigration.
Yeah.
And my theory is this idea of expelling all people that are brown is absolutely ridiculous, and it smacks of 1930s Nazism. And you know, most of the NHS is run by brown people, and we wouldn't survive without them. And we imported them. It was they were from the Caribbean, Africa, all part of our empire, which thankfully has now gone. I mean, we don't have empires anymore. But you know, some of my best friends are black, and my idea is that we've been invaded. We've got a snake that has slithered silently into the country, and it's a viper, and the head of which is the imams in the mosques, which are where all the hatred which has come from is being fueled by Iran, and the head of this viper needs to be cut off.
I agree. Yeah.
Me, like yourself, I'm a Christian, but I don't go to church. I believe I can have a relationship with God without the intervention of the hypocritical church. And I'm pretty sure that the Muslims can practice their faith without having to go to mosques. And I think that Viper's head should be taken off, because that's where all the hatred is coming from.
Right. I mean, look, I see what you're saying here, which is, and I totally agree. What we do need to do, it's not about skin colour, it's about culture. It's all about culture. When I do make it to my church, hopefully I'll make it over a bit later today, because the normal big service is, well, I'm on air. But I go to the later one. But I walk into my church and it's packed full of some of the best people on earth, amazing Christians. But because it's in London...
We're on the same song sheet there, aren't we?
Yeah, it's not exactly an all-white church. And the problem is how people think. Because, you know, for instance, we're talking about this geezer, this radical imam with his weird training camps in the Peak District. If you see a photo of this guy, he's not how you'd expect him to look. You'd actually mistake him potentially for a European. He's very sort of pale-skinned, green-eyed. So this is the thing. Judging people by the package is just a ridiculous concept.
Oh, of course it is.
But we've got to be more assertive, more determined, more confident to stand up for our own culture, on our own values, and when things aren't in accordance with ours, just say absolutely not. You don't get, you know, people in, Dubai, they've welcomed in loads and loads of expats. They've allowed a lot more stuff than they normally would do because they've got rid of the radical Islam, but you nick something, your hand's chopped off.
Exactly.
So, you know, they don't mess about, and I think that's where we got to be. Tim, thank you for...
Your little short life, you really impressed me, because you've lived in so many parts of the world. So, you know, you gained that knowledge